Every year, there's one high school football player crowned as the #1 recruit in the nation. But being #1 doesn't guarantee anything. Some of these players became legends, yes, but others flamed out entirely, and a few just disappeared. So from 2000 to 2025, we're going back through every single one of them to see what really happened. And by the way, we are going off the #1 recruits listed on the 247 Sports Composite ranking, so we are starting with DJ Williams. And he was a freak athlete in high school. I mean, this guy did everything. 42 touchdowns in his senior season, had 130 tackles on defense, caused 5 fumbles, and also ran a 4.45 40 time. USA Today called him their Defensive Player of the Year, and recruits said that he was the best player in the country.
He was one of the most highly recruited players at any position out of high school.
He was the USA Today Defensive Player of the Year in 1999.
At the University of Miami, they moved him from fullback to linebacker, and that was a genius move. He played for that legendary 2001 team that went undefeated and won the national championship. The Broncos took him 17th overall in 2004. He played 11 seasons and got 899 tackles, including some savage hits along the way. But he never made a Pro Bowl. For a guy who was supposed to be so elite, he was more like a solid starter than a star, I would say. These days, he's the founder of a clothing line called Dime Life. Moving on to 2001, we've got Kevin Jones, who was the guy that everybody wanted. Virginia Tech and Penn State basically went crazy trying to get him, and you can see why. This dude ran a 10.59 second 100-meter dash time while being a beast of a football player. When he picked Virginia Tech, they had never signed anyone ranked that high before. After rushing for almost 1,000 yards as a freshman, he dropped off a bit in his sophomore year but still had 9 touchdowns. His junior year though, the guy went nuts. He broke Virginia Tech's rushing record and finished with 1,647 yards and 21 touchdowns. Against Pittsburgh, he ran for 241 and 4 touchdowns in one game. The Lions ended up grabbing him 30th overall in 2004. His rookie season looked great with over 1,100 yards. Then it all crashed. His average yards per carry dropped to 3.6 the next year, and he was basically finished as a lead back. 5 years later, he was done with just 3,176 career rushing yards. After retiring, he did stay involved in the game. He's currently the chief of staff and running backs coach for the Bluefield State University football program. Vince Young was definitely a guy who lived up to the hype in college. He got a perfect rating from recruiting services, which does not happen very often. You could see why, because in high school, he had almost 13,000 yards of total offense. Bobby Burton even called him the most dominant high school player that he had ever seen. Then at Texas, Young was also incredible. His junior year, he threw for over 3,000 yards and ran for 1,000 more. But that Rose Bowl against USC made him a legend.
He's going for the corner. He's got it.
And it came down to that play menu too. That play was a zone blitz, and once I came back to throw it to my check down to Selman, it was a lane. And I just, my instincts just took off running.
I mean, he had 467 total yards in that game. It was just one of those performances that you will never forget. The Titans made him the 3rd pick in 2006, which was kind of shocking at the time, as Houston had the #1 pick and a lot of people thought that he would go first. Young won Rookie of the Year and made 2 Pro Bowls in his pro career. But the NFL was very different from college. He threw 51 picks in 6 seasons and could never stay consistent. The mental part of the pro game really got to him, and by the end of the 2011 season, he was out of the league. After retiring, he worked for the University of Texas Division of Diversity and Community Engagement as a development officer for program alumni. But it did not last long. He was fired for poor performance. Since then, he was rehired by the athletic department as a special assistant. Next up, we've got Ernie Sims, who made history before he even stepped foot on a college campus. He was the first linebacker ever to be ranked #1 overall in the country by rivals. This dude was starting varsity as an 8th grader. As a junior, he put up 180 tackles in one season with 41 for a loss and 12 sacks. He played both ways and led the team to 4 state titles. And at Florida State, Sims was legit. He helped FSU win 2 ACC championships and was a monster on the field.
From the shotgun. Intercepted.
Lions took him 9th overall in 2006, and he had a solid 8-year career with over 100 tackles in each of his first 3 years. But here's the thing. For the only linebacker ever ranked number 1 overall, solid wasn't really what people expected. All things considered, he ended up having a pretty disappointing career. Now he's the assistant linebackers coach at Florida State University, returning to his alma mater in 2024. When you have people calling you a Greek god, you know you've got to be good, and Adrian Peterson lived up to all the hype and then some. He was just a straight up cheat code. He ran a 10.26 100-meter dash time at 6 feet 2 inches tall and 210 pounds. In high school, he ran for 2,960 yards and 32 touchdowns as a senior.
University of Oklahoma.
Peterson got to Oklahoma and was instantly a superstar. As a true freshman, he started off very fast, and he went on to rush for 1,925 yards. There were only 2 games all season where he didn't hit 100 yards or more. At the end of the year, he finished 2nd in Heisman voting, which was the best ever for a freshman. The Vikings took him 7th overall in 2007, and from there on, AP became everything you wanted in a running back and more. 7 Pro Bowl appearances, 4 All-Pro First Team selections, and 2012 MVP when he ran for over 2,000 yards. He had this violent style of running where he would just truck over any defender, but he could also take any carry to the house because he was so fast.
I like to refer to Adrian Peterson as an animal. I mean, the guy is just relentless. He doesn't stop. His legs is always moving, and he breaks tackles, man. The guy, he runs angry.
Peterson's the first guy on the list who is a lock for the Hall of Fame, which makes it even sadder that he's got so many money problems right now and struggling with off-field issues. He hasn't officially retired, but he also hasn't played since 2021. Eugene Monroe was basically the perfect offensive line prospect. This guy didn't even give up a single sack in his final 25 games during high school. He had everything scouts wanted. At Virginia, he was super reliable for 4 years. Even when injuries slowed him down, he was still rock solid. His junior year, he gave up 0 sacks and only 1 quarterback pressure all season long. In his senior year, he set school records with 105 key blocks. The Jags made him the 8th pick in 2009. Monroe had a 7-year career that was just fine. He was solid, started a bunch of games, and finished up in Baltimore, but for a guy who was rated so highly, he never became truly elite. Monroe actually retired early in 2016 because he was worried about head injuries. Now he's in the weed business. Next up, we've got Andre Smith, and this guy was huge. 6'4", 325 pounds. This dude had 88 pancake blocks as a senior in high school, which was nuts, and he became the first offensive lineman ever to win Alabama's Mr. Football Award. Mike Farrell compared him to Orlando Pace and called Smith the best offensive line prospect in a decade. At Alabama, Smith proved him right. He started as a freshman and got better every year under Nick Saban. His junior year, he only gave up 1 sack all year long while leading Alabama's dominant offensive line. Smith won the Outland Trophy, which is basically the Heisman for offensive linemen. Bengals took him 6th overall in 2009, and he played 12 seasons, bouncing around 4 different teams. He was solid and reliable, but he never hit that elite level that you would expect from the top recruit in the country. Joe McKnight was insane in high school. He rushed for over 700 yards on just 45 carries as a senior. That's like 16 yards every time he touched the ball. He also caught 24 passes for 735 yards. He was USC's highest rated recruit in school history. McKnight's college career had some crazy moments. His Rose Bowl game as a freshman was nuts. 125 rushing yards on only 10 carries. But he never quite became the superstar everybody thought he would be at USC. The Jets still drafted him in the 4th round in 2010, and yeah, he did have some very explosive plays.
3 receivers set. And look at Joe McKnight break it. Zimikowski is the only guy that can get him. And Zimikowski able to take him down at the 5.
But otherwise, his NFL career was rough. He played 4 years, rushed for only 505 total yards, and never scored a rushing touchdown. An Achilles injury basically ended everything. Sadly, McKnight was killed in a road rage incident in Louisiana in 2016. He was just 28 years old. Moving on to 2008, and next up is Daquan Bowers, who made other high school players look like they were playing a completely different sport. One coach literally said he should not be allowed to play high school football because he was so dominant. Rivals even compared him to Reggie White and Bruce Smith, which is very high praise. At Clemson, Bowers had one of the best individual seasons ever by a defensive player. As a junior, he led the entire country with 15.5 sacks, even though he was playing hurt. He won basically every major award for defensive players, including the Bronco Nagurski Trophy. Then the NFL happened, and it all fell apart. Tampa Bay took him second round because they were worried about his injuries. Turns out they were right to worry. Bowers played 5 seasons, but only started in 10 games total. He never had more than 25 tackles in a single season and was done by the end of 2015. For a guy who was supposed to be the next Reggie White, it was a huge letdown. 2009 gave us a quarterback who looked like he had it all figured out. Matt Barkley won the first ever Joe Montana Award in high school, and he was legit in college as well. He was the first true freshman ever to start a season opener at USC, which tells you just how special they thought he was. He broke Pac-12 records for career passing yards and touchdowns, and over 4 years he threw for 12,327 yards and 116 touchdowns. But then his senior season got wrecked by a shoulder injury against UCLA, and his draft stock fell off a cliff. The Eagles took him in the 4th round in 2013. His NFL career has been rough so far. 7 seasons, 4 teams, and he's thrown more picks than touchdowns. He's been a backup for guys like Josh Allen and Trevor Lawrence, but he just hasn't played since 2023. Ronald Powell ran a 4.5-second 40-yard dash at 6 feet 4 inches tall and 245 pounds, which is crazy for a guy that size. Florida had never signed anybody ranked higher than him. Powell started off hot once he got to college. He made the SEC All-Freshman team and led the team with 6 sacks as a sophomore. Then the injuries hit him hard. He tore his ACL in spring camp before his junior year and missed the entire season. He came back in 2013 but was never the same player. The Saints took a shot on him in the 5th round though, but his NFL career lasted just 1 year. He played 14 games without a single start and had just 2 tackles total. After bouncing around practice squads, he ended up in the Alliance of American Football before that league eventually ended. And unfortunately, Powell passed away in January of 2024 at just 32 years old. That makes 2 guys already on this list that have passed away way too early. It's absolutely terrible. In 2011, we've got one of the most hyped up recruits that we've ever seen. Jadeveon Clowney was 6 feet 6 inches tall and 260 pounds in high school. Personally, I think I was about 5'6", 5'7", maybe 150 pounds. Jadeveon Clowney would crush me, would crush 99% of high schoolers. At that size especially, you do not want to get in his way. He had 29.5 sacks as a senior, and he had that insane combo of size, speed, and motor that you almost never see. At South Carolina, Clowney was a legend right away. As a freshman, he had 8 sacks and won SEC Freshman of the Year, but his sophomore season made him famous nationwide. You remember that hit against Michigan in the Outback Bowl where he basically sent the running back's helmet flying?
Wow. Michigan at the 41. What a hit! Ball's free! On the ground! South Carolina deserves to have it, and they do!
That won an ESPY for the Play of the Year and showed everybody just how dominant he could be. The Texans made him the first pick in 2014, but since then, his career has kind of been a mixed bag. He's not necessarily a bust. He made 3 Pro Bowl appearances and has had 58 sacks over 11 seasons, and he was definitely disruptive.
That last big one on a 3rd and 10 for 26 yards. Clowney giving chase. And Brady has seen enough of him.
He does some freakish stuff out there.
It's intercepted, Clowney!
He just sometimes just does some things that you're just like, I don't understand how a guy of his size could pull that off.
But even so, for a guy with that much hype, you expected a lot more. Injuries have been a constant problem for him. It's amazing to think that he played with J.J. Watt in Houston, but they could barely stay healthy at the same time. You have to wonder what that defense could have looked like if both of these guys were healthy for an entire year. Instead, Clowney has bounced around 7 different teams and is yet to become that generational pass rusher that everybody thought he would turn into. Dorial Green Beckham is another guy who had all the physical tools that you could possibly want. This dude was 6 feet 6 inches tall, 220 pounds, but could still run a 4.4 second 40-yard dash. He caught 119 passes for 2,233 yards as a senior and broke the national career receiving record with 6,356 yards. People were comparing him to players like AJ Green and Julio Jones, so the hype was very high. At Missouri, Green Beckham showed that he could be elite. His sophomore year, he had 59 catches for 883 yards and 12 touchdowns, including a 4-touchdown game against Kentucky. But then the off-field problems started piling up for him. He had multiple weed arrests, then he got suspended after a domestic violence investigation. Missouri eventually kicked him off the team, then he transferred to Oklahoma, but still had to sit out a whole year because the NCAA wouldn't let him play right away. The Titans ended up taking him in the second round of the 2015 draft, hoping they could keep him focused, but it didn't work. He only played 2 seasons, one in Philadelphia, and caught 68 passes total, but the Eagles cut him in 2017. Since then, he's had multiple arrests for everything from DWI to drug possession. He even did jail time for breaking his probation. Robert Nkemdiche is another guy who was supposed to be the next great pass rusher. At 6 feet 5 inches tall and 260 pounds, he had the perfect frame for a defensive end. In high school, he put up 18 sacks as a junior while also running for over 500 yards on offense. He finished his prep career with 41 sacks total. At Ole Miss, Nkemdiche showed his talent sometimes, but never really put it all together. He had the physical tools to be dominant, but there were always question marks about whether he actually loved football. There were also some off-field incidents that made people worry about his decision-making. Falling out of a hotel window kinda does that. Even so, the Cardinals took him 29th overall in 2016, but his NFL career was basically a nightmare. He played 5 seasons with 3 different teams and had just 4.5 sacks total, all in a single year. That was 2018 when he also had 32 tackles. After washing out of the NFL, he tried the USFL and CFL but got cut from both leagues. He's also been arrested several times since then too. Leonard Fournette actually lived up to the hype, at least he did in college. This dude was built like a tank. People were comparing him to Bo Jackson because of his size and speed. In high school, he ran for 7,619 yards and 88 touchdowns. I mean, he was so dominant and focused that his coach Les Miles even compared his mindset to Michael Jordan's. At LSU, Fournette had one of the most impressive seasons ever by a running back. His sophomore year, he ran for 1,953 yards and 22 touchdowns, averaging 162.8 yards per game. He became the first player in SEC history to rush for 200 yards in 3 straight games. I mean, through 4 games that season, he already had 864 rushing yards. The Jags made him the 4th pick in 2017, and his rookie season was solid with over 1,000 yards and 9 touchdowns. He was so powerful every time he touched the ball, you did not want to get in his way. But injuries became a huge problem. He missed half of 2018, then came back in 2019 with another 1,000-yard rushing season. After that though, his production began to fall off. He was still catching a ton of checkdown passes from Tom Brady in Tampa, but his rushing upside was severely capped. They did win a Super Bowl together in 2021, which was awesome to see, but for a guy who was supposed to be the next great running back, his career was pretty disappointing. He hasn't played since 2023, and to be honest, he's probably done. Trenton Thompson was 6 feet 4 inches tall and 290 pounds, but could run a 4.8 40-yard dash time and bench press 385 pounds. USA Today named him their Defensive Player of the Year, and even though teams were triple teaming him in high school, he still put up 84 tackles and 36 tackles for a loss as a senior. At Georgia, Thompson was solid, but never became the dominant force that everybody expected him to be. His best season was in 2016 when he made 56 tackles and had 5 sacks, but that was about it. After college, Thompson went undrafted, which tells you everything about how his career went. He tried out with the Browns, but didn't end up making the team. And since then, he's been to the Alliance of American Football, Arena League, CFL, even the XFL. For a guy who was supposed to be one of the most dominant players in his class, it was pretty rough. Rashawn Gary was the first defensive tackle to ever finish #1 on Rivals. 6 feet 5 inches tall and around 300 pounds, he had 13.5 sacks as a senior and won the USA Today Defensive Player of the Year. But at Michigan, Gary's career was kind of a slow build. His freshman year was pretty rough, just 27 tackles and 1 sack. but each year he got better. His sophomore season, he had 6 sacks and 65 tackles. Then his junior year got cut short by a shoulder injury, but he still managed 3.5 sacks. The Packers took him 12th overall in 2019, and it did take a few years for him to really break out, but 2024 was his best season yet. He made his first Pro Bowl appearance and got voted into the NFL Top 100. In 2025, he started out great, but once Micah Parsons tore his ACL, all the double teams went back over to him. Jalen Phillips had one of the wildest college careers that you'll ever hear about. At UCLA, he started strong as a freshman with 3.5 sacks in 7 games. Then the injuries started piling up. He got concussed as a sophomore and only played 4 games. After getting hit by a car while riding a moped and dealing with multiple other injuries, Phillips actually medically retired from football in 2018. His career was over before it ever started. Then he transferred to Miami in 2019 to study music, but he also got cleared to play football again. His comeback season was incredible. He had 45 tackles, 8 sacks, and an interception while making second-team All-American. The Dolphins drafted him 18th overall in 2021, and his first 2 years were solid with 8.5 sacks as a rookie, but he did tear his Achilles in 2023 and hasn't been the same since. Even in high school, Trevor Lawrence was 6 feet 5 inches tall with that flowing blonde hair and a rocket for an arm. He threw for 13,902 yards and broke Georgia's state records for career passing yards and touchdowns, making him one of the most hyped up recruits in history. At Clemson, Lawrence lived up to every bit of the hype. He took over as the starter just 4 games into his freshman year and led the Tigers to a national championship. That 44-16 beatdown of Alabama in the title game made Lawrence a superstar. Over 3 years, he threw for over 10,000 yards with 108 total touchdowns and went 34-2 as a starter. He was a Heisman finalist and won basically every award that you could think of. The Jags made him the first pick in 2021, which everybody saw coming from miles away.
If you're talking about best available, there was no other choice in this draft.
So far in the pros, Lawrence has shown flashes of greatness and even made a Pro Bowl in 2022.
Lawrence fires into the end zone, caught! Touchdown!
But his NFL career has really been up and down.
Motion by Kirk, backpedaling, end zone! Wide open was Zay Jones, and Lawrence missed him.
The good news for Jags fans is that he really seemed to flip a switch in the second half of the 2025 season, leading Jacksonville to a 13-4 record and a division title. I expect the Jaguars to be a playoff staple over the upcoming years. Nolan Smith had some of the most ridiculous testing numbers that you'll ever see. At 234 pounds, this guy ran a 4.51 40-yard dash time, and he only got faster too. At the NFL Combine, he hit 4.39 seconds, which is faster than Saquon ran. Even so, at Georgia, Smith took some time to develop. His best year was 2021 when he had 56 tackles and helped Georgia win their first national championship in decades. He dealt with some injuries, but he was still a key part of back-to-back championship teams. The Eagles took him 30th overall in 2023. His rookie year was pretty quiet, but 2024 was much better. He had 6.5 sacks during the regular season and then just went off in the playoffs with 4 more sacks.
Here comes Nolan Smith. Love in trouble. He is sacked!
The Eagles obviously went on to win the Super Bowl as well, so Smith got his ring nice and early in his career. At 6'5" and 290 pounds, Bryan Bresee was a beast. He had a 31-inch vertical and ran a 4.21 shuttle time, which is almost impossible for a guy of his size. As a junior in high school, he had 36 tackles for a loss and 12 sacks. Then he went on to have 30.5 tackles for a loss as a senior. At Clemson, Bresee started every game that he played in as a freshman and won ACC Defensive Rookie of the Year with 4 sacks. But his college career got wrecked by injuries and personal tragedy. He tore his ACL as a sophomore and missed most of that season. Then in 2022, his 15-year-old sister Ella died from brain cancer, and he missed time dealing with that loss. Despite everything that he went through, he still got all ACC honors multiple times. The Saints drafted him 29th in 2023, and as a rookie, he didn't start, but he still managed 4.5 sacks off the bench. Last year, he had 7.5 sacks, which is pretty solid, and he came up big when you wanted him to.
Hurts in trouble, sacked!
He's been decent as a pass rusher, but his run stopping still needs some work. For a guy ranked as one of the best recruits ever, he's been pretty good, but not quite that dominant yet. Next up, we've got Quinn Ewers, who became only the 6th recruit ever to get a perfect rating according to the 247 Sports Composite. He decided to go to Ohio State, but things didn't work out there. Just 2 snaps in garbage time against Michigan State. After 1 season, he transferred to Texas, and that's where his career really took off. Over 3 years with the Longhorns, he threw for over 9,000 yards and 68 touchdowns. He led Texas to a Big 12 championship and back-to-back college football playoff appearances. His 2023 season in particular was really good with a 158.6 passer rating. But despite all that success at Texas, Ewers fell all the way to the 7th round of the 2025 draft. Dolphins took him 231st overall, which is nuts for a guy who was once the #1 recruit in the country. And unfortunately, his first preseason game did not go too well.
High snap handled. Ewers delivers off target.
But as the year went on, he started to get more comfortable in the Dolphins offense, even starting in 3 games once Tua was benched. He went 1-2 in those games with a nice win against the Bucs. Moving on to 2022, Travis Hunter might be the most unique #1 recruit that we have ever seen. This guy played both cornerback and wide receiver in high school and was elite at both. He caught 272 passes for 3,963 yards and 48 touchdowns on offense, which broke the Georgia State record. On defense, he had 19 picks and 116 tackles. He was literally the best player on the field no matter what side of the ball he was on. Everybody thought he was going to pick Florida State, but at the last second he shocked everybody and committed to Jackson State to play for Deion Sanders. That move flipped college football on its head because usually 5-star recruits just don't go to HBCUs. When Sanders left for Colorado, Hunter followed him there and made history. At Colorado, Hunter became the first player to ever win both the Bednarik Award for the best defensive player and the Biletnikoff Award for the best receiver in the same season.
Pressure coming. Shador gets out of dark, complete to Hunter. On the move, showing him his shoe bottoms. Jefferson gets away from one and superhuman pick from Travis Hunter.
He finished with 153 career catches for 1,979 yards and 20 touchdowns on offense, plus 66 tackles and 7 picks on defense. To cap it all off, he also won the Heisman Trophy. The Jaguars made him the 2nd pick in the 2025 draft and tried using him on both sides of the ball. He showed off some nice moves in his limited playing time before an LCL tear put an end to his season. Okay, now we've got some guys who have not yet made it to the NFL, but they're starting to shine in college. And 2023's top recruit, Arch Manning, might be the most famous ever. This guy has been considered a top prospect since middle school, and for good reason. He's the nephew of Eli and Peyton Manning, grandson of Archie Manning, so football is literally in his DNA. In high school, he threw for 8,539 yards and 115 touchdowns. And at Texas, Manning did something pretty rare these days. He actually stayed put instead of transferring. Manning waited his turn for 2 years. When he finally got his shot as a starter in 2025, the results were rough early on. But he figured things out as the year went on and showed the kind of swagger that you never really see with the Manning family name.
And Manning keeps it himself. Cutting up, gets into the end zone, touchdown.
Plus, he's got plenty of time to develop, and I think he really does need that time. The Manning camp has been pretty vocal about him staying at Texas for a while, but he does need to step it up if he wants to succeed at the NFL level. Moving on to 2024, we've got Jeremiah Smith, who became the highest rated wide receiver recruit in history. Ohio State had been recruiting him hard, and when he committed, everybody knew they were getting something special. Smith's freshman season at Ohio State was very impressive. He broke Chris Carter's record for touchdown catches and finished with 1,315 yards and 16 total touchdowns.
From the pocket, well protected, shakes a shot downfield, and going up making the catch is Smith.
And maybe most impressive of all, he only had 1 drop all season. He won the 247 Sports True Freshman of the Year. In 2025, Smith was named an All-American, catching 87 passes for 1,243 yards, leading the Big Ten in both categories. He is also the best wide receiver in college football. And for 2025, we've got Bryce Underwood, who just finished his freshman season at Michigan. This kid was the consensus top player in the 2025 draft class and flipped his commitment from LSU at the last minute to stay home in Michigan. At 6'4" and 228 pounds, he won 2 state championships at Belleville High School. Michigan named him their starting quarterback as a true freshman, which tells you how special they think this guy is. Coach Sharon Moore said he earned the opportunity and wasn't just given it. In his first year, he threw for 2,428 yards with 11 touchdowns and 9 interceptions. Michigan finished with a 9-4 record, but this kid's only 18 years old, and people are expecting him to be the top quarterback in just a few years. Every April, a college kid who's never played a snap in the NFL becomes an instant millionaire. We're talking almost $40 million recently for players who have never faced pro competition. Teams bet their entire future on a first overall pick who might become a superstar or a complete bust. It's a massive gamble that often fails spectacularly. For every Peyton Manning who transforms a franchise, there is a Jamarcus Russell collecting around $30 million guaranteed just to throw interceptions and wash out of the league. This one decision changes everything. You get it right and you could dominate the league for a decade. Get it wrong, you're setting your team back 5 years minimum, burning millions of dollars, and probably even getting everybody fired. So today we're taking a look at every first overall pick since 1970 and seeing how often they're actually the best player in their draft class. The 1970 finalized merger kicked things off with the Steelers taking quarterback Terry Bradshaw first overall.
Steelers select Terry Bradshaw, quarterback, Louisiana Tech.
Looking at his rookie numbers alone, you'd probably think that Pittsburgh made a huge mistake. He threw 24 interceptions with just 6 touchdowns and couldn't even complete 40% of his passes. Dennis Shaw of the Bills actually won Offensive Rookie of the Year over Bradshaw that season with 2,507 yards and 10 touchdowns. The guy still had 20 interceptions himself though, and rookie stats can often be misleading. Bradshaw eventually turned into a Hall of Fame quarterback and led the Steelers to 4 Super Bowl wins in the 1970s. So in the long run, this first overall pick was definitely the best.
Yeah, the guy had a freaking gun. It's one of the 5 best guns that ever played the game.
The newly renamed Boston Patriots hoped that Jim Plunkett would turn their struggling team around in 1971. He had an okay rookie season, but Green Bay's John Brockington really stole the show, rushing for 1,105 yards and winning Offensive Rookie of the Year. This draft was absolutely loaded with talent. Isaiah Robertson won Defensive Rookie of the Year for the Rams and ended up making 6 Pro Bowls. The Saints got Archie Manning at number 2. John Riggins went 6th to the Jets, and Jack Youngblood somehow fell all the way to 20th. Then we have guys a little later in the draft like Jack Ham, Dan Deerdorf, Harold Carmichael, all future Hall of Famers. Plunkett bounced around the league before finally finding success with the Raiders, winning 2 Super Bowls, but that happened almost a decade after he was drafted. Was he the best rookie or the best in this draft class? I don't think it was even close. The Bills thought they found a beast in Walt Patulski, a defensive end from Notre Dame. Franco Harris, picked 13th by the Steelers, burst onto the scene with 1,055 rushing yards and 10 touchdowns. He helped Pittsburgh make the playoffs and made the Immaculate Reception, one of the most famous plays in NFL history. Patulski had a forgettable rookie year and was out of the league after playing 5 seasons. So this one wasn't even close. Franco Harris was way better as a rookie and went on to have a Hall of Fame caliber career. In 1973, the Houston Oilers took John Matuzak with the top pick, hoping he'd strengthen their defense. But his rookie season was pretty forgettable. He didn't get a single vote for Defensive Rookie of the Year. That award went to Chicago's Wally Chambers, who made an immediate impact on the Bears' defense. And looking even deeper into this draft class, it gets even worse for the Oilers. John Hanna, Ray Guy, Joe DeLamalure, and Dan Fouts all became Hall of Famers in the future. Matuzak bounced around for a bit before finding some success with the Raiders, but his off-field problems often got more attention than his on-field play. The Cowboys traded up to grab Ed Too Tall Jones first overall in 1974. At 6 feet 9 inches tall, he showed some real promise as a rookie with 6 sacks, which got him 3rd place in Defensive Rookie of the Year voting.
I'd look at those long arms of his, and I'd look at myself, and I'm going, you know, this isn't fair. I'm just this short little dumpy guy. Can I really keep him from the quarterback?
But it was Pittsburgh who really struck gold in this draft. The Steelers picked both Lynn Swann and Jack Lambert, with Lambert beating out Jones for Defensive Rookie of the Year honors. Both guys went on to be Hall of Famers and helped build the Steelers' dynasty. Jones turned into a 3-time Pro Bowler and played a solid 15 years with Dallas, but Lambert and Swann had a bigger impact on those amazing Steelers teams, making them the better draft picks from this class. Some other notable picks from this class were Dave Casper, and the Steelers also got future Hall of Famers Mike Webster and John Stallworth. 4 future Hall of Fame picks in one draft class is insane for one team. The Falcons hoped that Steve Bartkowski would transform their offense in 1975, and he looked promising as a rookie, throwing for 1,662 yards and 13 touchdowns. Good enough for second place in Offensive Rookie of the Year voting. Washington's Mike Thomas barely beat him out with his all-around game, racking up 919 rushing yards and 483 receiving yards. But the real story of this draft came with the 4th overall pick.
He fought every inch. Must have twisted and knocked 3 or 4 guys over, spun around, accelerated. And I said, oh my goodness.
The Bears took Walter Payton, who had a pretty quiet rookie season with 679 rushing yards. But anybody who watched football in the late 70s and early 80s knows what happened next. Payton became one of the greatest running backs ever, making Bartkowski a decent but not amazing first choice overall. In their first season, the Buccaneers made Leroy Selman their very first draft pick in 1976. He struggled to make a big impact right away, but that's not surprising. The Bucs were absolutely terrible that year, going 0-14. New England's Mike Haynes won Defensive Rookie of the Year with 8 interceptions, and Selman didn't receive a single vote. But Tampa stuck with him, and it definitely paid off. He developed into an absolute beast, making 6 Pro Bowls in a row and eventually getting into the Hall of Fame. Sometimes those first overall picks just need a couple of years to develop, and Selman proved that a rough rookie year does not tell the whole story. Was he the best? Maybe not, but he was certainly up there. Other future Hall of Famers from this class did include Mike Haynes, Harry Carson, Jackie Slater, and Steve Largent. After going winless in their first season as a franchise, the Bucs took the first pick yet again in 1977. They took running back Ricky Bell, passing on Tony Dorsett, who went to Dallas with the very next pick. That decision blew up in their faces immediately. Dorsett ran for 1,007 yards and 12 touchdowns, winning the Offensive Rookie of the Year and helping the Cowboys win the Super Bowl. Bell didn't get a single vote for that award. Bell managed 1,000-yard season in his short 6-year career before health issues forced him to retire. Dorsett, on the other hand, played for 12 seasons, rushing for 12,739 yards and 77 touchdowns, including that famous 99-yard touchdown run.
Dorsett down the sideline, stays in bounds.
This has to be one of the clearest draft misses ever for a top pick. The Oilers hit the jackpot in 1978 with Earl Campbell, a punishing runner from Texas who absolutely dominated from day one.
15-10-5, touchdown Earl Campbell.
He was great from day one.
Kind of girlish for one guy to tackle me. I mean, I wanted to have a bunch of them. And they knew that if it wasn't like 6 of them, or 4 or 5 maybe, I knew what was going to happen and they knew what was going to happen.
He rushed for 1,450 yards and 13 touchdowns as a rookie, winning Offensive Rookie of the Year, Offensive Player of the Year, and coming in second for MVP. Detroit's Al Baker had an amazing rookie year too, with 23 unofficial sacks. This was before sacks were even an official stat, and he won the Defensive Rookie of the Year. Other Hall of Famers from this draft class included James Lofton and Ozzie Newsome, but Campbell was just a different type of animal. He ran so physically that his highlights still make you cringe today. He led the league in rushing in his first 3 years and made the Hall of Fame. He's exactly what teams dream about when they make that first overall pick. The Bills selected linebacker Tom Cousineau first overall in 1979, but he never even put on a Bills uniform. He bolted for Canada instead, signing with the Montreal Alouettes for more money before eventually coming back to the NFL with Cleveland years later. Meanwhile, Otis Anderson of the St. Louis Cardinals was tearing it up with 1,605 rushing yards and 308 receiving yards in an amazing rookie season. The first round that year was packed with talent. Phil Simms, Dan Hampton, Kellen Winslow, Mark Gastineau, and of course, most notably, Joe Montana all became stars. Cousineau only played 6 NFL seasons after coming back from Canada, which made him one of the bigger busts ever taken first overall. The 1980s kicked off with the Lions taking Heisman Trophy winner Billy Sims from Oklahoma, the last Sooner to go first overall until Sam Bradford 30 years later. Sims was electric right away, rushing for 1,303 yards, adding another 621 receiving yards, and scoring 16 total touchdowns on his way to winning Offensive Rookie of the Year. He made 3 straight Pro Bowls to start off his career, and he looked like he would be the Lions' cornerstone for years to come. Then, disaster struck with a devastating knee injury in 1984 that ended his career after just 5 seasons. Hall of Famers Anthony Munoz and Art Monk were available in this draft, but it's tough to blame the Lions for taking Sims first overall. He changed games immediately and was well worth the top pick, even though his career did get cut short. All that being said, he unfortunately was not the best player in this draft class. For the second year in a row, a Heisman-winning running back went first overall when the Saints picked George Rogers from South Carolina. Rogers had an amazing rookie season with 1,674 rushing yards and 13 touchdowns, grabbing Offensive Rookie of the Year honors, making the Pro Bowl, and the All-Pro First Team. But while Rogers was tearing it up in New Orleans, a linebacker in New York was changing the game completely. Lawrence Taylor didn't just win Defensive Rookie of the Year. He took home Defensive Player of the Year as a rookie and turned the Giants' defense into something really special.
Cunningham will put it up. He beats one man, beats another, is hit again, and down he goes.
There's something about Lawrence Taylor that is larger than life.
There's nobody that really I could put in his category.
The 1981 draft also gave us Hall of Famers Kenny Easley, Ronnie Lott, Howie Long, Ricky Jackson, Russ Grimm, and Mike Singletary. Rodgers had a good career, and the Saints had no intention of drafting Lawrence Taylor with their first overall pick, but looking back, Rodgers definitely was not the best player in this class. Kenneth Sims is a guy who never really came close to living up to the hype. He managed just 3 sacks as a rookie and came in 4th for Defensive Rookie of the Year voting. Meanwhile, Marcus Allen put together one of the most dominant rookie seasons ever, winning Offensive Rookie of the Year with 100% of the votes. The Raiders running back scored 14 touchdowns in just 9 games during that strike-shortened season, and went on to make the Hall of Fame. Sims only started all 16 games one time in his 8-year career and finished with a measly 17 total sacks. Okay, this is one of the harder drafts to call because it's probably the most famous quarterback class ever, and John Elway was the main attraction.
Okay, George, Elway may play in the NFL, may not, but for the last couple of weeks, he's been the most spoken about name probably in American sports.
Baltimore selects as the first choice in the draft, quarterback John Elway of Stanford.
He threatened to play baseball instead and forced the Colts to trade him to Denver, where he eventually led the Broncos to 2 Super Bowl wins. As far as actual rookie seasons go, it wasn't even close though. Eric Dickerson was by far the best. The Rams running back exploded for 1,808 rushing yards and 20 total touchdowns, winning Offensive Rookie of the Year with nearly 74% of the votes and coming in 2nd for MVP. That 1983 draft class also gave us Jim Kelly and Dan Marino, and you can easily make arguments for both of those guys, but when you factor in Elway's 2 championships, I think it's fair to say that he was the best in this class. The Patriots went with wide receiver Irving Fryer at the top pick of the 1984 draft, but his rookie year was pretty quiet with just 11 catches. Instead, Pittsburgh's Louis Lipps won Offensive Rookie of the Year with 860 yards and 10 total touchdowns. Fryer's slow start had people a bit worried, but he did develop into a 5-time Pro Bowler over 17 seasons in the league, racking up 12,785 receiving yards and 85 total touchdowns before retiring after the 2000 season. Lipps had early success, but he just couldn't keep it going, only going over 1,000 yards once in his 9-year career. This just goes to show you why teams need to be patient with their top overall picks, even when they don't light it up right away. As far as being the best pick in the draft, Fryer was another home run by the end of his career. I do want to mention that I'm not taking into account the players taken in the supplemental draft in this video. If that were the case, then of course Fryer was not better than Steve Young or Reggie White. The 1985 draft is one of the most talented ones in NFL history, starting with Buffalo taking defensive end Bruce Smith. And if you're looking for a defensive stud, it does not get much better than this guy. He eventually became the NFL's all-time sack leader, but his rookie season was actually outshined by some other defensive stars. Technically, Reggie White was in his rookie season there because he was drafted in the 1984 supplemental draft, and he outperformed Smith with 13 sacks. But the real story of this draft was Jerry Rice.
The San Francisco 49ers had won their second Super Bowl in 4 years. In the '85 draft, they then selected a receiver who would become the best in NFL history.
Pump fake by Montana, launches it for the end zone. Jerry Rice! Oh, what a catch by Rice!
This draft gave us two GOATs at their positions, Smith and Rice. And you've even got Chris Dolman in the mix. Smith had an amazing career, but Rice's complete transformation of the wide receiver position makes him the best player from this ridiculously stacked draft class. The Buccaneers drafted Bo Jackson first overall in 1986, but he never played a single down for them. Bo flat out refused to play for Tampa Bay and decided to play baseball for the Kansas City Royals instead. He later joined the Raiders in 1987 as a quote-unquote rookie. With Bo nowhere to be seen, Leslie O'Neal put together the best rookie season that year, racking up 12.5 sacks and 2 interceptions for the Chargers on his way to winning Defensive Rookie of the Year. Bo eventually became the only athlete ever to be named an All-Pro/Pro Bowler in 2 major North American sports. He played both baseball and football from 1987 to 1990. Anybody who saw him play football will tell you that he was one of the most freakish athletes to ever step on the field. So I guess this one is kind of up for debate. If we're talking about overall career, then I wouldn't say Bo Jackson was the best in the class, and I think Tampa Bay fans would have to agree with that statement. His career was cut short in 1991 due to a hip injury, and there were some other great players in this class like Hall of Famer Charles Haley. After taking Bo Jackson and it backfiring horrendously, becoming a disaster for Tampa Bay, they tried again with another first pick in 1987, taking Miami quarterback Vinny Testaverde. His career started off terribly with an insane 35 interceptions in just his second year. He actually went on to lead the league in picks 4 separate times, although they weren't all with the Buccaneers. But the best player from this class had to be Rod Woodson, who developed into one of the greatest defensive backs of all time. Testaverde wasn't the best player in this class, but he did provide amazing longevity. This guy played for 21 seasons, which makes it pretty hard to call him a bust. The Falcons took linebacker Andre Bruce first overall in 1988. Hoping that they'd found the next Lawrence Taylor, but instead, Bruce started just 40 games in his 11-year career and never made much of an impact in the league. Jets safety Eric McMillan had the most impressive rookie season that year, grabbing 8 interceptions and taking 2 back for touchdowns on his way to winning Defensive Rookie of the Year. But the real stars of this draft class came later on. Tim Brown, Sterling Sharp, Michael Irvin, and Thurman Thomas all became offensive weapons. You had Randall McDaniel and Dermontti Dawson, Hall of Fame blockers, and then Eric Allen anchored defenses for many years. The 1989 draft was absolutely loaded at the top, with 4 of the first 5 draft picks eventually making the Hall of Fame. Dallas started off things by taking UCLA quarterback Troy Aikman, who would eventually lead them to 3 Super Bowl wins in the 1990s. Despite Aikman's later success, he wasn't anywhere close to the best rookie that year. Barry Sanders rushed for 1,470 yards and 14 touchdowns for Detroit and won Offensive Rookie of the Year, while Kansas City's Derek Thomas took home Defensive Rookie of the Year honors with 10 sacks. The Packers infamously took Tony Mandarich second overall, who was one of the biggest busts ever, passing on Barry Sanders, Thomas, and Deion Sanders. While Aikman had a great career, Barry Sanders' incredible talent probably makes him the best player from this amazing class.
This guy did something special, every single Sunday.
He turns it completely around. Watch it. Here, goodbye. Hello, where are you? Thank you.
The Colts took a chance on quarterback Jeff George with the first pick in 1990 after the Cowboys gave up their selection by taking Steve Walsh in the supplemental draft. George had a cannon for an arm, but struggled with consistency issues throughout his journeyman career. Chicago's safety Mark Carrier had the best rookie season, hauling in 10 interceptions and winning Defensive Rookie of the Year. But the real gem of this draft class was Emmitt Smith, taken 17th overall by the Dallas Cowboys, who eventually became the NFL's all-time leading rusher.
Dallas selects Emmitt Smith, running back from Florida. Up the middle, bounces at the 10, to the 5, cut to the right, cut to the left. Oh, no! Emmitt Smith has eclipsed Walter Payton as the NFL's all-time rushing leader, and somewhere...
This draft also featured defensive stars Junior Seau, Leroy Butler, and Cortez Kennedy, all better players than George, who bounced around 5 teams in his 12-year career. The Cowboys traded up to grab defensive tackle Russell Maryland with the top pick in '91. He turned out pretty solid, played 10 years, made a Pro Bowl, and helped Dallas win 3 Super Bowls. But was he really the best player overall? That 1991 draft was packed with talent. Aeneas Williams, taken 59th overall, turned into an 8-time Pro Bowler and Hall of Famer. And Brett Favre went 33rd to the Falcons before landing in Green Bay, where he completed his first pass to himself.
Going to complete, if he throws, his first NFL completion, and it's to himself.
Then he became a legend with over 71,000 passing yards and a Super Bowl ring.
He drove you crazy, he made great plays, there was a little luck involved, the place was wild. Nobody knew at the time that that was going to be a sign of what's to come.
After a terrible 1991 season, the Colts took Washington defensive end Steve Emtman with the top pick. Unfortunately, injuries wrecked his career. He played just 50 games over the course of 6 seasons with only 8 career sacks. Dale Carter was the rookie standout that year, grabbing 7 interceptions for Kansas City, while Emtman could barely stay on the field. The Colts really missed out here, not only missing out on Emtman with the first pick, but they also had the number 2 pick as well, where they took Quentin Coryatt. Coryatt ended up being alright, but not special, especially for a top 2 draft pick. You had Troy Vincent, who became a 5-time Pro Bowl cornerback, Darren Woodson anchored the Cowboys defense for years, and Jimmy Smith turned into one of the most reliable receivers with 9 1,000-yard seasons. The Patriots took quarterback Drew Bledsoe first in '93, and he became a 4-time Pro Bowler and 1-time Super Bowl champ with over 44,000 career passing yards. But was he the best player available? I personally wouldn't say so. Jerome Bettis rumbled to Rookie of the Year honors with 1,429 rushing yards for the Rams. The Bus eventually made it all the way to the Hall of Fame with over 13,000 career rushing yards. And the real steal of this draft class was Michael Strahan at pick 40, who terrorized quarterbacks for 15 seasons and set the single-season sack record with 22.5 in 2001. Don't forget Willie Roaf, John Lynch, and Will Shields, all Hall of Famers. Bledsoe was good, but this draft class had some all-time greats in it. The Bengals picked defensive tackle Dan Wilkinson first overall in '94. He hung around the league for 13 years, but never really lived up to the hype with just 54.5 career sacks. Marshall Faulk really stole the show as a rookie this year, rushing for 1,282 yards and 11 touchdowns. He went on to become one of the most OP weapons ever during the Rams' greatest show on turf era. This draft class was absolutely loaded with talent that the Bengals missed out on. You had Falk, Bryant Young, Isaac Bruce with his 15,208 receiving yards, Kevin Mawai, and Larry Allen, who might have been the strongest player to ever be in the NFL. Wilkinson was fine, but he was nowhere near the best player available. The Bengals once again had the first pick in 1995, and this time they really messed it up, trading to take running back Kajana Carter first overall. He tore his ACL in his first preseason game and never was the same, finishing with just 1,144 career yards and 14 total starts in 7 injury-filled seasons. Meanwhile, you had rookie running backs Curtis Martin and Terrell Davis both top 1,000 yards right away. Martin started his Hall of Fame career with 1,487 rushing yards, while Davis rushed for 1,117. The Bengals could have also had future Hall of Famers Warren Sapp, Derek Brooks, Ty Law, and Tony Boselli. Carter is one of the worst picks ever, especially with so many great running backs also available that same year. The Jets kicked off the 1996 draft by taking Keyshawn Johnson, who had a solid career with 3 Pro Bowl appearances and over 10,000 receiving yards, but several players from this class reached much greater heights. Ray Lewis was one of the top rookies that year, piling up 110 tackles for Baltimore, and of course, he later went on to become one of the greatest linebackers ever with 12 Pro Bowls and 2 Defensive Player of the Year awards.
Listen to me. This team cannot move the ball on us. It is time for us to set this tone. This is what makes champions. Right here.
Rolls the deep back, gets the hand off in the backfield. The Ravens stop him. Ray Lewis comes up the middle, and it's all over.
Even if you take Ray Lewis out of the equation, the Jets still missed on some really elite talent. Marvin Harrison quietly racked up over 14,500 yards. Jonathan Ogden dominated as a left tackle. Brian Dawkins became one of the most, if not the most, feared safety in the league. And then you had Terrell Owens turning into one of the most productive receivers ever despite falling to the 3rd round. Keyshawn was good, but this draft had multiple players that were better. In 1997, the Rams nailed it, picking offensive tackle Orlando Pace first overall. He quickly became an elite left tackle and a cornerstone of the greatest show on turf offense. His 2000 season was about as good as it gets for an offensive lineman. Pace made the Hall of Fame with 7 Pro Bowl appearances and 3 first-team All-Pro selections. He protected Kurt Warner perfectly during the Rams Super Bowl run. Even in a draft class with other Hall of Famers like Walter Jones, Tony Gonzalez, Rondé Barber, and Jason Taylor, the Rams got this one right with Pace. You could argue that Jones was just as good, but Pace was exactly what the Rams needed and absolutely worth that top overall pick. In 1998, the Colts had to choose between Peyton Manning and Ryan Leaf.
Peyton Manning, Ryan Leaf.
2 can't-miss rookie quarterbacks.
Both have potential to be stars for a long, long time.
50% said Manning, 50% said Leaf.
Thank God the Colts went with Manning, and the rest, it's history. Manning transformed this franchise while Leaf crashed and burned as one of the biggest busts ever. Randy Moss actually won Rookie of the Year with his ridiculous 17 touchdown season, outshining Manning's rookie campaign, which is mostly remembered for his 28 interceptions, but Manning's trajectory was already clear.
I gave Peyton Manning the nickname the Sheriff because he always gets his man.
If you take him out the game, no disrespect to nobody else on the Colts, but you make them a very below average ball club.
5 MVPs, 2 Super Bowl wins, 14 Pro Bowls, and all the records to match. Even with Charles Woodson and Randy Moss in the same class, Manning is possibly the greatest first overall pick ever. The Colts absolutely got this one right. The Browns took quarterback Tim Couch first overall in 1999, and this was just a draft pick that didn't work out. Playing behind a terrible offensive line, he took a beating, to say the least, and after 5 seasons, his career was basically over. Javon Curse won the Defensive Rookie of the Year award with 14.5 sacks, earning the nickname The Freak, and Edgerrin James put up an insane rookie season with over 2,000 total yards and 17 touchdowns for the Colts. The Browns missed out on a draft loaded with stars, guys like Ricky Williams, Torrey Holt, Champ Bailey, and if they wanted to take a better quarterback, they should have taken Donovan McNabb or Dante Culpepper. They needed a quarterback, but Couch really never had a chance behind that offensive line, and he proved to be the wrong choice. For the second straight year, the Browns had the top pick and took defensive end Courtney Brown. He showed flashes with 4.5 sacks as a rookie, but injuries limited him to just 61 career games. Brian Urlacher dominated in his rookie season with 98 tackles, 8 sacks, and 2 interceptions, easily winning Defensive Rookie of the Year. On offense, you had Mike Anderson rushing for nearly 1,500 yards and 15 touchdowns for Denver. The Browns really whiffed on this one. Urlacher became an 8-time Pro Bowler and the face of Chicago's defense. The draft also produced other great players such as Shaun Alexander, John Abraham, and Jamal Lewis, all much better players than Brown.
And of course, you can't forget about Tom Brady, the best player in this class by far, and also the best player of all time potentially.
The Falcons traded up to snag Virginia Tech quarterback Michael Vick with the top pick in 2001. This draft class had some serious talent. Drew Brees somehow fell to the second round, Reggie Wayne became a star in Indy, and Richard Seymour anchored those Patriots championship defenses. And LaDainian Tomlinson dominated the rookie class with 1,236 yards and 10 touchdowns for San Diego, starting what would become a Hall of Fame career. While LT was probably the best player from this class, Vick is one of the NFL's biggest what-ifs, an absolutely insane talent whose off-field issues derailed what could have been an all-time career. The next year, the Houston Texans started their franchise off by taking quarterback David Carr first overall. This poor guy walked into a nightmare situation with the worst offensive line you could possibly imagine. And the result, a record 76 sacks in his rookie season alone. That 2002 draft had 3 defensive superstars who would have changed Houston's future. Julius Peppers obliterated quarterbacks for 17 years. Dwight Freeney brought that devastating spin move to Indy, and Ed Reed became a ball-hawking genius in Baltimore. Carr's career never recovered from the beating he took in Houston, and we'll never know what he might have became with actual protection. Meanwhile, Reed made the Hall of Fame as maybe the greatest safety ever. Peppers collected 159.5 career sacks, and Freeney became one of the scariest pass rushers around. The Texans' first pick was also their franchise's first big mistake. Cincinnati took USC quarterback Carson Palmer in 2003. Palmer actually sat out his whole rookie season, but by 2005, he was showing everybody that the Bengals had made the right choice, passing for 3,836 yards and 32 touchdowns. As far as actual rookie seasons go, Anquan Boldin completely stole the spotlight with an insane 1,377-yard, 8-touchdown debut season for Arizona. On defense, Terrell Suggs wrecked opposing offenses with 12 sacks for Baltimore. Palmer had a pretty solid career with 3 Pro Bowls, but injuries kept interrupting his momentum. Troy Polamalu, taken 16th by Pittsburgh, turned out to be the real gem of this class, becoming one of the greatest safeties ever with his incredible instincts.
Open. Jackson drops it, and Polamalu almost makes the interception.
Bengals got a good player in Palmer, but they did miss out on a truly special talent in Polamalu. Cincy also missed out on the 3rd overall pick that year, who turned into a future Hall of Fame wide receiver, Andre Johnson. In 2004, Eli Manning announced that he would not play for San Diego, kind of like the Elway situation all over again. The Chargers, they drafted him anyways. Then they traded him to the Giants for Phillip Rivers and a couple draft picks in one of the biggest draft day moves ever. This draft class was stacked. Ben Roethlisberger won the Rookie of the Year award, leading Pittsburgh to a 15-1 record, while Eli wasn't too great in that first season. Larry Fitzgerald immediately showed that he was elite in Arizona, while guys like Jonathan Vilma and Steven Jackson made their marks as well. Manning's career is fascinating. He was statistically average with a 117-117 record and 3 seasons leading the league in interceptions, but he was immortalized by 2 incredible Super Bowl runs against Tom Brady and the Patriots. Big Ben was easily the better quarterback and Fitzgerald the much better talent. I know I asked this in another video of mine, but do you guys think that Eli will eventually make the Hall of Fame or not? The first pick in 2005 was a toss-up between Alex Smith and Aaron Rodgers. The 49ers chose Smith, which would be a decision that looked terrible for years after. Smith struggled big time in San Francisco, dealing with 7 different offensive coordinators in his first 7 seasons there. Talk about instability. Rookie running back Cadillac Williams impressed with 1,178 rushing yards for Tampa, while Sean Merriman had 10 sacks for San Diego. The 49ers clearly whiffed here. DeMarcus Ware developed into one of the scariest pass rushers ever with 138.5 career sacks, and Aaron Rodgers, who embarrassingly fell to pick number 24, became a 4-time MVP and one of the most talented passers we have ever seen.
Is Aaron Rodgers the best playmaker ever?
I feel like when it comes to Aaron Rodgers, he can make any throw on the field.
Smith eventually found success in Kansas City, became a respected veteran, and had an incredible comeback story in Washington after that horrific leg injury, but passing on Rodgers changed 2 franchises. In 2006, Houston shocked everybody by taking defensive end Mario Williams over the much more hyped up Reggie Bush and Vince Young. Fans were furious. Bush was supposed to be a once-in-a-generation talent, and Young was the hometown hero who had just won a national championship at Texas.
He's going for the corner. He's got it.
Linebacker DeMeco Ryans actually had the best rookie year for Houston with 126 solo tackles, while Vince Young won Offensive Rookie of the Year, flashing some great dual threat abilities. Reggie Bush showed his versatility as well with over 1,300 combined yards for New Orleans. But looking back on things, the Texans actually got this pick right. Williams finished with 97.5 sacks and 4 Pro Bowl appearances, easily outperforming both Bush and Young long term. Young fizzled out after some early success, and Bush, while he was solid, never came close to his college hype. Sometimes the unpopular pick turns out to be the smart one. Was he the best pick in the entire draft, though? That's another question. You had some players drafted later on that had just as good, if not better, careers than Williams did. Nick Mangold, Brandon Marshall, and Haloti Ngata, just to name a few. Now we get to 2007, the year that the Raiders took Jamarcus Russell first overall in what became one of the biggest disasters in draft history. He held out, played just 4 games as a rookie, and by 2010, he was completely out of the league. What makes this pick even worse is that the 2007 class might be the most talented ever. The Vikings got Adrian Peterson at number 7, the Lions got Calvin Johnson 2nd, the 49ers snagged Patrick Willis at 11, the Jets landed Darrelle Revis at 14, and the Browns found Joe Thomas at pick 3. There were so many elite players that you could draft blindfolded and still get a legend. And still, the Raiders failed. They couldn't possibly have made a worse choice with the first pick. After going 1-15, Miami selected offensive tackle Jake Long with the top pick in 2008. He immediately lived up to it, making the Pro Bowl in each of his first 4 seasons and establishing himself as one of the top left tackles in football. Matt Ryan had an outstanding rookie year, throwing for 3,440 yards and winning Offensive Rookie of the Year. Chris Johnson also burst onto the scene with his explosive speed, giving us a preview of the 2,000-yard season he'd have 1 year later. Sadly, injuries derailed Long's career, his body started breaking down, and he was never the same dominant force after year 4. Matt Ryan went on to develop into a 4-time Pro Bowler and won the 2016 MVP. With hindsight, the Dolphins would probably take Ryan, but Long's early dominance made him a reasonable choice at the time. Some other notable players from this class were Calais Campbell and Aqib Talib. Both had great careers overall. After going 0-16, the Lions pinned their hopes on Georgia quarterback Matthew Stafford. His rookie year was rough, with 20 interceptions, and injuries limited him to just 3 starts in year number 2. But Detroit's patience eventually paid off big time. If it wasn't for Stafford, the Lions wouldn't have even been competitive most seasons.
It's like as soon as he gets the ball in his hands, he just throws to a spot and then boom, somebody's right there. And I'm like, come on, like, what just happened?
The 2009 rookie class featured defensive standouts like Clay Matthews and Brian Arakpo. Alex Mack and LaShawn McCoy also had great careers when it was all said and done. But Stafford absolutely proved to be the right pick. Despite rarely having a complete team around him in Detroit, he consistently produced and still is playing at a high level to this day on the Rams. In fact, he's recently become the highest paid player in NFL history with career earnings over $391 million. In 2010, the Rams picked Oklahoma quarterback Sam Bradford first overall, and his rookie season was actually promising. 3,512 yards and 18 touchdowns, enough to win Rookie of the Year. Unfortunately, injuries and inconsistency defined everything after that. He was out of the league by 2018. Detroit's Ndamukong Suh was clearly the most dominant rookie, racking up 10 sacks from the defensive tackle position. His combination of power and quickness made him nearly unstoppable.
Anytime you're running into Ndamukong Suh full speed at the line of scrimmage from a foot away, you're going to know that it's him, and you can definitely feel the difference between him and other guys.
Bradford's career doesn't come close to the incredible talent in this draft class. Defensive stars like Suh, Gerald McCoy, Eric Berry, and Earl Thomas all became forces. Rob Gronkowski became arguably the greatest tight end ever. Trent Williams is an 11-time Pro Bowler right now, and Antonio Brown, despite later controversies, was a 6th-round steal who dominated the decade. I could go on all day about the players in this draft class that turned out great. The Rams, they definitely missed on this one. In 2011, the Panthers took a chance on Cam Newton after one fantastic season in college. Newton shut up the critics immediately though, smashing rookie records with over 4,000 passing yards and an unbelievable 14 rushing touchdowns. This draft was also loaded with talent. I mean, you had Von Miller, Patrick Peterson, Julio Jones, AJ Green, Richard Sherman became the face of Seattle's Legion of Boom, Jason Kelce took charge of the Eagles' offensive line for 13 years, and JJ Watt turned into a 3-time Defensive Player of the Year. Even with all that incredible talent, Newton proved that he was worth the top pick. His 2015 MVP season was something special. 45 total touchdowns while leading Carolina to a 15-1 record and a Super Bowl appearance. His career did fall off after 2018 because of injuries, but at his peak, Newton completely changed how teams thought of the quarterback position. If you ask me to just pick one player from this draft class though that's the best, it has to be Von Miller. 2012 was the year that the Colts moved on from Peyton Manning to draft Andrew Luck, the most hyped prospect since John Elway.
With the first pick in the 2012 NFL Draft, the Indianapolis Colts select Andrew Luck, quarterback, Stanford.
He's an all-around player, he's a great player, and he's going to be a great player for a long, long time.
While Luck had a solid rookie year, Robert Griffin III stole the show with a spectacular season in Washington. RG3 won the Rookie of the Year with 3,200 passing yards, 20 touchdowns, just 5 interceptions, plus 815 rushing yards and 7 more scores on the ground. Russell Wilson also turned heads with 26 touchdown passes, while Luke Kuechly dominated on defense with 164 tackles. Luck eventually showed why he was the right choice, making 4 Pro Bowls and leading the Colts to multiple playoff runs. His shocking retirement at just the age of 29, worn down by injuries, cut short what could have been a Hall of Fame career. Looking back, keeping Manning on the roster might have been smarter in the short term, but Luck was still the most complete quarterback prospect of the decade. If we're talking about the 3 best players from this class though, it would have to be Bobby Wagner, Russell Wilson, and Luke Kuechly for sure. No offense to Luck, but his career just did not last long enough. In 2013, probably the weakest draft class in recent memory, Kansas City took Central Michigan offensive tackle Eric Fisher first overall. Fisher developed into a solid starter over time, making 2 Pro Bowls, but never really lived up to that first pick hype. Eddie Lacy won Offensive Rookie of the Year with 1,178 rushing yards and 11 touchdowns. Tyrann Mathieu showed flashes of his playmaking ability after dropping in the draft, and DeAndre Hopkins gave us glimpses of his future greatness. The real gem of this class wasn't Fisher, but his teammate Travis Kelce, taken 63rd overall. With multiple All-Pro selections and 3 Super Bowl rings, Kelce is right up there with Gronk as the best to ever do it. So the Chiefs did actually get the best player in this draft, they just didn't do it with their first pick. In 2014, the Texans just could not pass up Clowney's freakish athleticism. A 4.53 40-yard dash time at 6 feet 5 inches tall and 266 pounds was just too tempting. Injuries hurt his production in that first year, but he eventually developed into a solid pro with 3 straight Pro Bowls from 2016 to 2018. But you kind of hope for more than just solid with your first overall pick. And there were some massive stars in this draft. Odell Beckham Jr. had the most electric rookie season with over 1,300 yards and 12 touchdowns in just 12 games. Plus that iconic one-handed catch against Dallas. Then you've got Aaron Donald on the other side of the ball. He had 9 sacks as a rookie, winning Defensive Rookie of the Year, and he gave us a preview of what was to come, as he became one of the most dominant players of all time.
You don't get 20 sacks on accident. He's kind of like everything you want in a D lineman, a guy that is just disruptive.
Aaron Donald is the best defensive player of all time.
Aaron Donald made the Pro Bowl in every year he was in the NFL, all 10 years. You know the only other player to do that? Barry Sanders.
Looking back on it, Donald was far and away the best player in this class. I mean, with 111 career sacks and 3 Defensive Player of the Year awards, all from the defensive tackle position, it's no joke to say that he's in the conversation with Lawrence Taylor as the greatest defensive player ever. In 2015, Tampa took Florida State quarterback Jameis Winston first overall, hoping that his arm talent and football IQ would overcome his turnover issues. His rookie year was a mixed bag, over 4,000 yards and 22 touchdowns, but also 15 interceptions. It wasn't a stellar draft class, but still, a few rookies made immediate impacts that year for their teams. Amari Cooper topped 1,000 receiving yards, Todd Gurley rushed for over 1,100 yards and 10 touchdowns in just 13 games. Marcus Mariota showed some promise with 19 touchdown passes. Winston never figured out that turnover problem in Tampa, famously throwing for over 5,000 yards with 33 touchdowns, but also 30 interceptions in 2019. Todd Gurley might have been the class's best talent, scoring 67 rushing touchdowns between 2015 and 2020.
He finds a way to get in the end zone, whether it's 80 yards away or whether it's 10 yards away.
Fun fact, that would still rank third among active players today. His 79 total touchdowns in 6 seasons shows what could have been an all-time great career before knee injuries cut it short. In 2016, the newly relocated Rams traded up to the top spot for Jared Goff, making him the face of their Los Angeles return. Goff struggled pretty badly as a rookie under Jeff Fisher. He actually had a negative approximate value on Pro Football Reference, which is pretty insane. But Sean McVay's arrival in 2017 completely transformed his career. Dallas hit the jackpot this year with 2 rookie stars, 4th-round quarterback Dak Prescott won Rookie of the Year with nearly 3,700 yards and 29 total touchdowns, while Ezekiel Elliott led the league with 1,631 rushing yards and 16 total touchdowns. Goff was good enough to help the Rams reach a Super Bowl, but wasn't the draft's best talent. He wasn't even the best quarterback. Carson Wentz looked like a potential MVP before a knee injury changed his career path. You've got to think that Derrick Henry was the best player in this class. He's still dominating at the age of 30 with an incredible 1,921-yard, 16-touchdown season for Baltimore in 2024. Then there's some other big-name players like Tyreek Hill, Jalen Ramsey, and Chris Jones, all of which I think are better than Goff. In 2017, Cleveland took Texas A&M edge rusher Myles Garrett first overall, and while injuries limited him to just 7 sacks in 11 games as a rookie, his incredible talent was obvious from day number 1. He's since become one of the NFL's most dominant defenders with 4 first-team All-Pro selections and over 100 career sacks in 8 seasons so far. This class produced some serious stars. Christian McCaffrey is probably the most versatile running back when healthy. Alvin Kamara became a touchdown machine in New Orleans. TJ Watt developed into a defensive player of the year in Pittsburgh, and Cooper Kupp became a key player for the Rams offense. But none of those guys were the best player in this draft. While Garrett absolutely justified his selection with elite production and a record-setting $160 million contract, Patrick Mahomes is obviously the draft's best player.
Patrick Mahomes is undisputed and by far the best player in football at the quarterback position.
Mahomes throws it for the touchdown. Plenty of time, and they've got another one-on-one for Robinson, and he makes the catch.
Kelsey's in man on the drag.
Here comes Von Miller. Oh, how did he pull that off?
Taken 10th overall, Mahomes has matched Tom Brady's early career pace with better numbers all across the board. More wins, higher completion percentage, more yards, more touchdowns, and fewer interceptions. With 3 Super Bowl wins already, Mahomes might be the biggest miss for quarterback-needy teams in draft history. The Browns finally ended their never-ending quarterback search by taking Baker Mayfield first overall in 2018. As a rookie, he set the touchdown record with 27 scores, but things got pretty rocky in Cleveland and they moved on after 4 years. This quarterback class turned out to be huge. Some people even argue that it's up there with 1983. Josh Allen is the reigning MVP, while Lamar Jackson has already won 2 MVPs himself. And Jackson, for me, is the most exciting player to watch in the league. You've even got Saquon Barkley, who had a great rookie season with over 2,000 total yards to win Rookie of the Year. The Browns have to be kicking themselves watching Baker turn things around in Tampa. Still, there's a big gap between him and guys like Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson. Cleveland didn't blow this pick, but they definitely missed out on the draft's best players. In 2019, Arizona made the bold move to take Kyler Murray just 1 year after drafting Josh Rosen. Murray's ability immediately showed up, earning himself Rookie of the Year with over 3,700 passing yards and 544 rushing yards. A bunch of guys from this class made noise right away. Nick Bosa collected 9 sacks to win Defensive Rookie of the Year, and Max Crosby came in second, while receivers like Deebo Samuel and A.J. Brown showed off their skills. Murray's career has been up and down with injuries and team drama so far, but when he finally stayed healthy for all of 2024, he did show some promise, throwing for 3,851 yards and adding 572 on the ground, including that crazy play where he called his own touchdown from midfield.
It is Murray on the keep and design. Oh, Kyler Murray! Turn on the afterburners, he's gone!
While Bosa or Crosby might be the draft's best players right now with how consistently dominant they have been, Murray's ceiling is still crazy high. The next few years could completely change how we look at this pick. In 2020, Cincinnati took Joe Burrow after his ridiculous college season where he threw 60 touchdowns. Even though he tore his ACL halfway through his rookie year, everybody could see how talented this guy was. This draft class produced some serious offensive stars. Justin Herbert put up huge rookie numbers with over 4,300 yards and 31 touchdowns. Justin Jefferson quickly became the best wide receiver in football. Jalen Hurts has turned into a dual threat monster in Philly, and CeeDee Lamb became a reception machine in Dallas. But Burrow has definitely been worth the pick despite fighting through injuries. His pocket presence, accuracy, and leadership took Cincinnati to a Super Bowl in just his second year. When he's healthy, he shows that special processing speed and precision that only the really elite guys have. This next pick was supposed to be a lock for the next big thing. The Jaguars took Trevor Lawrence first overall in 2021. He was the most hyped up quarterback prospect since Andrew Luck. Then he had to deal with Urban Meyer in his rookie season, and it was a complete disaster. Micah Parsons was the most dominant rookie that year, racking up 13 sacks and winning Defensive Rookie of the Year unanimously. Jamar Chase reunited with Joe Burrow and won Offensive Rookie of the Year with nearly 1,500 receiving yards and 13 touchdowns. Patrick Surtain quickly became one of the best corners in football with 2 first-team All-Pro appearances so far, and he even won last year's Defensive Player of the Year. Lawrence has all the physical tools, but his production has not matched his potential up to this point in time. If I had to pick one guy, I'd have to say that Chase has been the draft's best player after his Triple Crown season that has him on pace to break a bunch of receiving records. Lawrence still has plenty of time to live up to the hype, but the gap between what people expected and what he's done so far is still pretty big. Trayvon Walker's incredible athleticism, running a 4.51 40-yard dash at 272 pounds, pushed him to be the top pick even though he didn't have huge numbers in college. Then his rookie year was pretty quiet with just 3.5 sacks. As for some of the other picks, Sauce Gardner immediately became an elite cornerback for the Jets, while his teammate Garrett Wilson topped 1,000 yards receiving despite having terrible quarterback play. But the craziest story of this draft class had to be Brock Purdy, who went dead last at pick 262 and ended up taking the 49ers to the NFC Championship game as a rookie. Walker has gotten a lot better over his first 4 years with back-to-back 10-sack seasons in 2023 and 2024 that show he's developing nicely. This draft class was pretty recent, so it's hard to make any final judgments here, but so far Walker doesn't seem to be in the running for the consensus number 1. Carolina traded up to grab Bryce Young first overall in 2023, hoping that his smarts and accuracy would outweigh him being just 5 feet 10 inches tall. His rookie year turned into a struggle behind a terrible offensive line, and in 2024 he even got benched before finishing the year strong. CJ Stroud had an outstanding rookie season, throwing for over 4,000 yards and winning Offensive Rookie of the Year, while also getting some early MVP buzz. Puka Nacua broke rookie receiving records, Bijan Robinson and Jahmyr Gibbs showed off their versatility at the running back position, and Will Anderson collected 7 sacks on his way to winning Defensive Rookie of the Year. Young's tough rookie year looked even worse compared to Stroud's immediate success, but context matters. Houston gave their rookie much better protection and weapons. At the end of the 2024 season, Young had passer ratings of over 100 in his final 3 games. Meanwhile, Stroud's second year showed some regression with just an 87 passer rating. I would say after year number 3, for every player in this draft class, Gibbs, Anderson, and Bijan are the frontrunners for the most talented. In 2024, Chicago hit the reset button at quarterback by taking USC's Caleb Williams first overall, betting on his improv skills and arm talent to transform their franchise. He's shown flashes of brilliance in his first 2 years with the team, even leading them to a division title in 2025, along with their first playoff win since 2010. The guy taken right behind him, Jaden Daniels, looked great in year 1, but constant injuries ruined his second season. Then you got Drake May looking like the reincarnation of Tom Brady out there, leading the Patriots to the Super Bowl potentially in just his second year. Williams came in with huge expectations and is easily still in the conversation for best player in this draft class with guys like May, Jared Verse, or even Brock Bowers. I'm not even going to attempt to pick out the best player from the 2025 draft class because we don't have enough information to go off of. But I will say Cam Ward looked like the real deal at certain times during his rookie year. The problem is that the Titans made him look terrible and gave him no protection whatsoever, so we can't really tell how he's going to turn out. Some guys I will be keeping my eye on though in the future are Ward, Travis Hunter, Ashton Jeanty, Tet McMillan, Jackson Dart, and Luther Burden, just to name a few. One of these quarterbacks was benched twice, stabbed a man, and recently fired from his TV job, while another just led the NFL in touchdown passes and spent the season in the MVP conversation at the age of 37. This is what actually happened to every #1 quarterback recruit since 2000, according to the 247 Sports Composite ranking. Brock Berlin's journey started with sky-high expectations at Florida, but almost immediately, reality hit. He found himself buried on the depth chart behind Rex Grossman and Jesse Palmer. Opportunities were scarce and his patience ran out quickly. So before long, he transferred to Miami, but that move came at a cost. He wouldn't see real action until 2003. His junior year was rough, throwing just 12 touchdowns to 17 interceptions, but his senior year in 2004 was much better as he led the ACC in completions, passing yards, touchdowns, and passer rating. Still, NFL scouts weren't convinced. He went undrafted, signed with Miami in 2005, and later saw a tiny bit of action with the Rams in 2007 and 2008. Across his entire NFL career, Berlin threw for just 159 yards, 0 touchdowns, 1 interception, and finished 0-1 as a starter. After a brief stop on Detroit's practice squad in 2009, his football career came to a quiet end. Brodie Croyle was originally headed to Florida State before a last-minute decision sent him to Alabama. His college numbers were good enough to get him drafted in the 3rd round by the Chiefs in 2006, but injuries destroyed any chance he had at a real NFL career. Croyle went 0-6 as a starter in 2007, separated his shoulder in the 2008 opener, returned only to injure his knee, and never recovered after that. Kansas City released him early in 2011. He briefly signed with Arizona before retiring in 2012, finishing his career with 1,669 yards, 8 touchdowns, and 9 interceptions. The good news is that he's now having a much bigger impact off the field. After football, Croyle took over as the CEO of Big Oak Ranch in Alabama, a Christian home for children in need founded by his father. In 2002, the hype reached another level. Vince Young wasn't just elite, he was historic. At Texas, he won the Rose Bowl, captured the Maxwell and Davey O'Brien Awards, and became the first player in Division 1A history to throw for 3,000 yards and rush for 1,000 in the same season. The Titans took him 3rd overall in 2006. Early on, it looked like destiny. Young won Offensive Rookie of the Year, throwing for 12 touchdowns, rushing for 7 more, and leading the league with 5 game-winning drives. But turnovers proved to be a huge issue early on. 30 interceptions and 6 lost fumbles in his first 2 years. Despite miraculously going 17-11 as a starter, the inconsistency haunted him. Eventually, he was benched for Kerry Collins in 2008, which had to sting because Collins led the team to a 13-3 record. It felt like Young had all the physical tools, but couldn't figure out the mental side of the game. After Tennessee released him in 2011, he signed with Philly, Buffalo, Green Bay, and Cleveland. Then he tried to play in the CFL before getting hurt. After football, things got rough. He filed for bankruptcy despite making over $30 million in his career, and Texas hired him to work in the athletic department but fired him after repeated performance warnings and a DUI arrest. In 2021, he did land back at Texas as a special assistant in the athletic department though. Kyle Wright entered college as California's Gatorade Player of the Year and was supposed to be the next great Miami quarterback, following in the footsteps of guys like Jim Kelly. He redshirted in 2003, then spent 2004 backing up Brock Berlin before a sprained ankle and an allergic reaction to a bee sting cut his season short. In 2005, his first year starting, he did show some promise, leading the ACC in touchdown passes, One of his best games was against Wake Forest, where he threw 5 touchdowns in a 47-17 blowout. But 2006 did not go great. There was a ton of hype for him heading into the year, but he didn't really live up to it, and his season once again ended early, this time due to an injury to his throwing hand that required surgery. Then in 2007, he was initially benched, so his college numbers took a little bit of a hit. He ended up with 5,835 yards, 38 touchdowns, and 31 interceptions. The excitement coming out of high school just wasn't there heading into the NFL draft, and he didn't get picked at all. He signed with the Vikings but got cut before playing. Then he signed with the 49ers but never saw any action there either. Nowadays, he is the vice president of sales for a company called Cloudera. Then we're on to Rhett Bomar, who was very highly rated coming out of high school. In fact, he was right up there with guys like Adrian Peterson and Caleb Williams as the highest rated recruits Oklahoma has ever had. In 2005, his year started rough while he adjusted to college football, but he did get a little better as the season went on. He even won Offensive MVP of the Holiday Bowl when Oklahoma beat Oregon 17-14. Then in August of 2006, everything collapsed. Head coach Bob Stoops kicked him off the team, and it turns out Bomar was getting paid for work at a car dealership owned by a major donor, but he wasn't actually doing the work. After that, he transferred to Sam Houston State and did play pretty well. He became their all-time leader in passing and total offense at the time. The Giants drafted him in the 5th round in 2009, but he didn't exactly shine in his limited opportunities. He moved around practice squads with the Vikings and the Raiders, but never played a game. These days, he's been coaching at the high school level, but this is another guy who's gotten multiple DUIs after his retirement from football. And before we move on to a player who completely ruined his reputation, I need to tell you something. I used to use sportsbooks and would hate when my bet was about to cash just for the app to lock the cash out option and I end up losing. Luckily, you don't have to worry about that happening because today I have an app that allows you to always trade or cash out instantly no matter how late it is in the game. It's called Polymarket. This is a prediction market, not a sportsbook. You're not betting, you're trading outcomes. For example, the Bills are trading at 53% to beat the Broncos, and I feel like that gives me an edge. I'm going to buy in here with $100, and if the Bills get out to a hot start, I could trade it out for a profit, or I could let it ride. It's all up to you. If you already weren't convinced, on average, sportsbooks take a $9 fee on a $100 wager. Polymarket takes just 10 cents. That's why the payouts are increased, and this app is a complete game changer. Use the link down below to get yourself $10 free when you use code Phenoms. No deposit required. That's code Phenoms for early free access and $10 free in the app. Stop watching and start trading. Mark Sanchez is probably one of the most famous quarterbacks on today's list, and not for good reason. He was a backup at USC behind John David Booty before getting his shot in 2008. Sanchez went 12-1 that season and led his team to a Rose Bowl win against Penn State. He also led the Pac-10 with 3,207 passing yards and 34 touchdowns while throwing just 10 interceptions. The Jets took him 5th overall in 2009, and for a while there were some good moments. His rookie year wasn't exactly great statistically. He threw for 2,444 yards, 12 touchdowns, and 20 interceptions, but somehow, on the back of their defense, he led the Jets to the AFC Championship game. The next year, he did it again, a slightly above average season that ended in an AFC Championship defeat, this time at the hands of the Steelers. But then things completely fell apart. The Jets missed the playoffs the next 2 years, and on November 22nd, 2012, Sanchez had one of the most infamous plays in NFL history.
Then at Indianapolis, the offensive coordinator, you got a busted play here, and then Sanchez gets hit, the ball is loose, and it's alive.
He was even benched for Greg McElroy later that season in a game versus the Cardinals where he threw 3 interceptions in the first half. Then he suffered a shoulder injury in the 2013 preseason, and that was the end of his run as a starter. After the Jets released him, he was a backup for the Eagles, was a part of the Broncos, Cowboys, Bears, and Redskins before retiring in 2019. He worked as an analyst for ESPN from 2019 to 2021 and then moved on to Fox Sports. But in October of 2025, things got really bad.
Former New York Jets quarterback Mark Sanchez is facing misdemeanor charges after an alleged drunken fight with a truck driver.
According to police, he was harassing a 69-year-old worker who was collecting grease from the Westin Hotel. The guy pepper sprayed Sanchez, but he kept threatening him, and it ended with Sanchez getting stabbed. Sanchez was arrested on charges of battery, unlawful entry of a motor vehicle, and public intoxication. That's not as bad as it gets because the battery charge got upgraded to a felony. After that, Fox Sports fired him pretty quickly, and his criminal trial will take place in March of 2026. Before we continue quickly, I just want to ask you if you'd hit that subscribe button for me if you're enjoying the content. We are on the road to 50,000. Thank you very much, and let's keep it going. Matt Stafford led the SEC in passing in 2008 with 3,459 yards and 25 touchdowns at Georgia. The Lions took him first overall in 2009, and it did not take long for him to win over everybody in the locker room with one of the gutsiest displays you will ever see.
He's got to get rid of it. Stafford sets, looks, now running back to his right. Stafford looking for somewhere to go, sets and throws.
He was in so much pain that he could barely walk, but it was not going to stop him from finishing the game.
Hey, that's the timeout. I can play, right? No. Yeah, help me.
The rookie from Georgia, #1 overall pick, is back into the huddle.
Last play of the game, takes the snap, rolls, end zone. Touchdown, Detroit Lions.
Stafford was the guy in Detroit for 12 seasons. In 2011, he had a breakout year and became just the 4th quarterback in NFL history to throw for over 5,000 yards in a single season. And even though the Lions lost a ton of games while he was there, it was never really seen as his fault. He was always considered elite, just stuck in a bad situation. Then in 2021, the Lions traded him to the Rams, and that's when all the beatings he took in Detroit finally paid off. Stafford led the Rams to a Super Bowl 56 win in his first year there. Fun fact, the 2 receivers with the most yards in a single season both had Stafford as their quarterback. Calvin Johnson's record-breaking 1,964-yard season in 2012, and Cooper Kupp's Triple Crown year in 2021. And in 2025, Puka Nacua made a hell of an effort to get close. As of right now, Stafford's throwing no-look passes, he led the league in touchdowns, and had the best passer rating of his career, all at the age of 37.
24 behind snap that he brings down. Devontae Adams got another one!
As if that wasn't enough, he also set the record for most touchdowns without an interception back in November. Not to mention, the Rams have a great chance, I think, to win it all this year. Starting in 2007, we had an unfortunate drop-off in production with Jimmy Clausen. He played so well in his last 2 years at Notre Dame that he was seen as a solid prospect. The Panthers took him in the 2nd round of the 2010 draft, and his rookie season was brutal. He went 1-9 as a starter with 1,558 yards, 3 touchdowns, 9 interceptions, and a 58.4 passer rating.
So let's see if the Panthers can take advantage. Clausen. And that may have been picked off.
Clausen never won another game after his rookie year. His career record ended up 1-13. He stayed with the Panthers for 3 more years without playing, then spent parts of 2014 and 2015 as a backup with the Bears and Ravens before he was done. After football, Clausen has focused on investment properties as the owner of Clausen Development Company. Then we're on to Terrell Pryor, who's a really interesting case. The guy was 6'4", insanely athletic, and often compared to Vince Young. He was also one of the most highly recruited basketball players in the nation, but instead chose football. He started for Ohio State from 2008 to 2010, but his college career was derailed due to off-field issues. He was caught selling memorabilia and autographs for money. Once Ohio State investigated him, he was off the team. His head coach Jim Tressel was even suspended for trying to cover it all up. Those off-field issues weren't enough to keep the Raiders away though, and they took Pryor in the 3rd round of the 2011 supplemental draft. He still had to serve a 5-game suspension at the start of his NFL career, so it wasn't exactly the best situation for a rookie to walk into. Over the next few years, he didn't play much. His best season was in 2013 when he threw for 1,798 yards, 7 touchdowns, 11 interceptions, and went 3-6 as a starter with a bunch of big runs.
Hand off, it's Pryor. Lot of real estate to the 30. Pryor is off and running. Inside Steelers territory. 20, 10, and Pryor is in.
It was clear that he had moves in the open field and clear athletic ability, but playing quarterback wasn't really working out for him. So after that, he switched to wide receiver, which was actually a pretty good move. In 2016, he had a breakout year with the Browns, putting up over 1,000 receiving yards and 5 total touchdowns, even making Darrelle Revis look bad.
Josh McCown getting by the rush of Richardson, feeding downfield. They got him.
Following his departure from the Browns, he signed with the Redskins, Jets, and Bills, but never stuck anywhere. He most recently signed with the Jaguars in 2019, but was placed on IR and then released before the season began. Matt Barkley had an incredible junior year at USC in 2011. He threw for 3,528 yards and 39 touchdowns with just 7 interceptions. He came back for his senior year and threw 36 touchdowns, but he took a bad hit against UCLA that messed up his shoulder. That injury destroyed his draft stock. He fell to the 4th round in 2013 when the Eagles took him. In total, he's signed to 11 different NFL teams over the course of his career, which is actually really impressive. His quote-unquote best year, if you can call it that, came with the Bears in 2016. He went 1-5 as a starter with 1,611 passing yards, 8 touchdowns, and 14 interceptions. Over his whole career, he finished with 2,699 yards, 11 touchdowns, and 22 interceptions. Now Barkley is working in the financial field as a management director at Silverlight Asset Management. Then there's Philip Sims, who committed to Alabama and redshirted his freshman year in 2010. In 2011, he backed up A.J. McCarron on the team that won the national championship. In May of 2012, Sims transferred to Virginia after his dad had ongoing health issues. The NCAA granted him a waiver to play right away, and he appeared in all 12 games, throwing for 1,263 yards with 9 touchdowns and 4 interceptions, but the team went 4-8. Then he transferred again to Winston-Salem State in 2013 after being ruled academically ineligible at Virginia. He had to sit out that first season because of transfer rules, and in 2014 he split time at quarterback. Sims went undrafted in 2015 but signed with the Cardinals, and for a little bit there, in the preseason, he showed some promise, going through his reads well and being elusive, but he never saw any regular season action. After stops with the Seahawks and Saskatchewan Roughriders, he dabbled in coaching high school football, being a car salesman, and now works as a registrar for Virginia Beach City Public Schools. Next up is Jeff Driscoll, who threw for 4,844 yards and 36 touchdowns in high school. He went to Florida but never really put it together there. His best season was in 2012 when he threw for 1,646 yards, 12 touchdowns, and 5 interceptions. In 2015, he transferred to Louisiana Tech, where he absolutely exploded, finally living up to the promise that he showed in high school. In his lone season there, he passed for 4,033 yards and 27 touchdowns. The 49ers drafted him in the 6th round in 2016, but unfortunately they waived him before his rookie season started. He caught on with the Bengals and saw some action partway through 2018 before starting the last 5 games. He finished with 6 touchdowns and 2 interceptions, putting up 1,003 yards. Since then, he's signed with a ton of NFL teams, but hasn't managed to get anything going. Jameis Winston is one of the most interesting players on our list today. He won the Heisman Trophy as a freshman at Florida State, the youngest player to ever do it up to that point. And the icing on top was that the Seminoles won the national championship that year. Over 2 seasons at FSU, he threw for 7,964 yards and 65 touchdowns. The Buccaneers took him 1st overall in 2015. His rookie year, he set a bunch of franchise records and made the Pro Bowl while coming in 2nd for Offensive Rookie of the Year. In 2019, he led the league in passing yards with 5,109.
Winston flushed. Looking in the corner. It's caught. Touchdown, Perriman.
But he also threw 30 interceptions that same year. That's basically been the story of his whole career. He's always been a fun player to watch because he just launches the ball all over the place, but the turnovers have been a big problem. In March of 2020, Jameis declared for free agency, and shortly after, he was signed by the Saints, where he spent the next 4 years mainly as a backup. So far in his career, he's got 24,792 passing yards, 156 touchdowns, and 113 interceptions with an 86.3 passer rating.
Can Cleveland answer? They try with Judy. They got him. He's going the other way. Touchdown as the Browns and Broncos trade blows.
In 2025, he signed a 2-year, $8 million deal with the Giants. He started the season as the 3rd-string quarterback behind Russell Wilson and rookie Jackson Dart, but in Week 11, Dart got a concussion and Wilson was demoted, so Winston got the start. In his first start in 11 months, he completed 19 of 29 pass attempts for 201 yards. He also snuck in a 1-yard touchdown in the 4th quarter to give the Giants a 20-19 lead, but then he blew the game with the lost fumble and costly interception, and that was that. Moving on to 2013, we have Max Brown. He played at USC until 2015, backing up Cody Kessler. Then he got a chance to start in 2016, but quickly had the job snatched from him by Sam Darnold. The next year, he transferred to Pitt, but unfortunately early in the year, he took a sack against Syracuse and suffered a shoulder injury that needed surgery, which caused him to miss the rest of the season. After college, no NFL team signed him. He tried out with the Steelers in December of 2018, but did not get a contract. So after that, he figured he would try to become a social media personality and started analyzing Pac-12 teams on YouTube. And that's worked out pretty well for him, because in 2019 he became a pre- and post-game analyst for USC on KABC, while also writing for Trojansports.com. And most recently in 2025, Brown signed with ESPN as a college football analyst for the ACC network. He's also still working on that YouTube channel if you guys want to go check it out. Kyle Allen is the next guy on our list, and he played at Texas A&M for 2 years before transferring to Houston, where he would be benched after starting just 3 games. Allen finished up his college career with 4,283 yards, 37 touchdowns, and 18 interceptions, then went undrafted in 2018 before signing with the Panthers. In 2018, he started the final game of the year after injuries to Cam Newton and Taylor Heineke. And the guy did surprisingly well, throwing for 228 yards and 2 touchdowns. The next season, he had a real opportunity on his hands after Newton got hurt again, this time starting in 12 games. In week 3, Allen threw for 261 yards and 4 touchdowns with no interceptions.
59 seconds to go. Kyle Allen over the middle. That one is complete. DJ Moore in for the touchdown.
He actually became the first quarterback in NFL history to win his first 5 games without throwing a pick. But in the second half of that year, he fell back into being a less than ideal starting option. Washington traded for him in 2020, figuring there might be a little bit left in the tank, but he went 1-3 that year, along with breaking his ankle. In 2022, Houston signed him where he went 0-2 and hasn't started since. As of right now, he's a backup with Detroit. Just goes to show you the margins between the next big thing and what people consider a failure. Speaking of complete failures, Josh Rosen has got to be one of the most disappointing quarterbacks in recent memory. Over 3 years at UCLA, he threw for 9,341 yards, 59 touchdowns, and 26 interceptions. His final year, he had 3,756 yards, 26 touchdowns, and 10 interceptions, leading the Pac-12 in yards per game. Everybody in the NFL was buying into the hype. The Cardinals took him 10th overall in 2018, but his rookie year was horrible. He went 3-10 as a starter with 2,278 yards, 11 touchdowns, 14 interceptions, and a 66.7 passer rating. And then the team decided to draft Kyler Murray 1st overall in 2019 and just moved on.
Sources say the Miami Dolphins have now traded for former first-round quarterback Josh Rosen from the Arizona Cardinals.
You have to be pretty bad for an organization to lose hope in you after just 1 year. He struggled in Miami too and got released yet again. Then he spent time as a backup and a part of a bunch of different practice squads. After hanging up the cleats, he did go back to college, and for the last couple of years, he's been a student at the Wharton School of Business at the University of Pennsylvania. Next up is Shea Patterson, who started at Ole Miss before transferring to Michigan for 2018 and 2019. His final year at Michigan, he threw for 3,061 yards, 23 touchdowns, and 8 interceptions. He had back-to-back huge games late in the year. 384 yards and 4 touchdowns against Michigan State, then 366 yards and 5 touchdowns against Indiana.
Given plenty of time again, end zone, and it is caught!
He finished college with 8,800 passing yards and 68 touchdowns to 27 interceptions. The Chiefs signed him as an undrafted free agent in 2020, but he never played. After that, he bounced around to the USFL and CFL, and in 2025, the Winnipeg Blue Bombers released him, but he signed with the Montreal Alouettes, so we're gonna have to wait and see if he gets a chance to do anything there. Davis Mills looked super legit coming out of high school, where he threw for 6,290 yards and 66 touchdowns. He also had the ideal size for a QB at 6'4", 225 pounds. The Texans took him in the 3rd round of the 2021 draft, but he never really had time to develop. He started 11 games, going 2-9 as a rookie, and had 2,664 yards, 16 touchdowns, and 10 interceptions. In 2022, he started 15 games but went 3-10-1 and led the league with 15 interceptions. But the moment Houston drafted CJ Stroud in 2023, it was basically the end for Mills. It was starting to look like he was on his way out of the league until in 2025 he filled in for 3 games while Stroud was out.
Play fake, pass, wide open, touchdown!
Mills had 719 passing yards, 5 touchdowns, and just 1 interception in those games. Not only did he lead his team to 3 straight wins, but 2 of them were against playoff teams. A miraculous comeback against the Jags and a Thursday night upset against the Bills. I'd say his performances were good enough that he'll at least stick around as a backup in the league for a while. Then we're on to Trevor Lawrence, one of the more interesting stories. We all know the hype. Coming into the 2021 draft, Trevor Lawrence was one of the best and most hyped up quarterback prospects in history. We're talking about Elway, Manning, and Luck level hype. He won the national championship as a freshman at Clemson and set the school record for quarterback wins. Over 3 years, he threw for over 10,000 yards and 90 touchdowns. The Jaguars took him first overall, and everybody expected him to turn that franchise around immediately. But things did not go that way at all. His rookie season, he led the entire NFL with 17 interceptions. In 2022, things got better. He did make the Pro Bowl and led the Jags to the playoffs, and they even beat the Chargers 31-30 in one of the wildest comebacks you will ever see.
You couldn't write a crazier script. I mean, we said in the locker room, it's kind of how our season's going. We're never out of the fight, you know. I was breaking not a good record in the first quarter, had a couple interceptions, not looking great offensively, and we just kept believing in one another.
That felt like the turning point everybody was waiting for, but it wasn't. And 2024 especially was a disaster. For the 2025 season, Lawrence was 22-38 as a starter. The Jaguars were a mess. Lawrence wasn't playing like a generational talent at all. He was playing like another guy just struggling to stay above water on a bad team. And then he flipped a switch. The Jaguars hired Liam Cohen as their new head coach and something clicked. Lawrence is finally playing like the guy everybody thought he would be. In week 16, the Jags beat the Broncos 34-20 on the road and ended Denver's 11-game winning streak. Lawrence threw for 3 touchdowns and ran for another, which was a hell of a way to make a statement.
At the 10, ETN out of the backfield, on the edge, the cutback, the broken tackle, the touchdown for Jacksonville.
The timing on his throws have been better, and to be honest, he's making the throws that he just wasn't able to for the past 4 years. Then there's Spencer Rattler, who threw for over 11,000 yards and had 130 total touchdowns in high school. At Oklahoma in 2020, he had an amazing freshman season. 3,031 yards, 28 touchdowns, and only 7 interceptions. So heading into 2021, a lot of people had him as the favorite to win the Heisman. And things started off very well. He threw for 243 yards and 5 touchdowns against Western Carolina in game number 2, but the Sooners weren't winning games as convincingly as they should have. Then against Texas, he was benched in the second quarter for Caleb Williams and didn't start for the rest of the year. He transferred to South Carolina and was drafted by the Saints in the 5th round of 2024. In the NFL, he's had some flashes. This year, he had 8 touchdowns to 5 interceptions with an 86.5 passer rating.
Play action, Rattler to the air, looking deep down the field. Shaheed's got great speed. He's got him. Shaheed down the sideline. 10-5, touchdown.
But he went 1-7 and has since been benched for Tyler Shuck, who has looked much better. Then there's Bryce Young, and just like Trevor Lawrence, he's changing the narrative surrounding him this year.
Trying to plug that up, so one-on-one opportunity. It's caught by Coker for the touchdown.
The Panthers invested a lot into drafting him at number 1 and were obviously banking on him being a legit star. But those first 2 years were brutal. In 2025, though, Young was playing with confidence. He went 8-8 as a starter and led Carolina to their first division title since 2015.
Going that way, McMillan in the end zone. He's got it!
And maybe most impressively of all, he's led 6 game-winning drives this year. He's not the finished product yet, but he's getting more and more confident every week, and it's going to be interesting to watch him develop. It's crazy to think that Quinn Ewers was ranked ahead of Caleb Williams as a prospect coming out of high school. He initially committed to Texas, but he decommitted and went to Ohio State instead. But he didn't do anything there and decided to transfer to Texas after all. He did pretty well, but I felt like he was a bit inconsistent in big games and dealt with way too many injuries. Those concerns, coupled with his lack of elite upside, caused NFL teams to not value him that highly, and he slid all the way to the 7th round. In 2025, he started the season as Miami's 3rd-string quarterback behind Tua and Zach Wilson. Before Week 7, he was promoted to backup, and that same week, he made his NFL debut after Tua was benched. In Week 15, Tua was benched yet again, this time indefinitely, and Ewers was named the starter going forward. Against the Bengals, he went 20 for 30 for 260 yards with no touchdowns and 2 interceptions.
Trying to help his rookie quarterback. Ewers throws a pass, deflected, and picked.
But he was much better in Week 17, going 14 for 22 for 172 yards and 2 scores. I guess time will tell if the Dolphins stick with him in 2026 or go out and get themselves a new starter. Cade Klubnik threw for over 7,000 yards with 86 touchdowns and just 7 interceptions in high school. He won 3 state championships and set the school record for career passing yards and touchdowns, passing guys like Drew Brees and Nick Foles. At Clemson, his best season was in 2024, where he threw for 3,639 yards, 36 touchdowns, and 6 picks. Clemson lost to Texas in the first round of the college football playoff, 38-24, but Klubnik had 336 yards and 3 touchdowns during that game. His arm is strong and he's great at throwing deep down the field with accuracy. He's also very fast and he's being clocked at over 21 miles per hour. But as of right now, he's not projected to be a first-round pick in 2026. Mock drafts have him as the 5th quarterback in the class. Arch Manning is a great athlete and got a ton of hype because he's a Manning who can run. At high school in New Orleans, he finished with 8,539 passing yards, 115 touchdowns to just 19 interceptions, and rushed for 19 more scores. He ended up committing to Texas, and in 2024, he made an appearance against Colorado State when Texas was already up 38-0 in the 3rd quarter, where he finished with 5 completions for 95 yards and a touchdown, plus a rushing score.
And Arch Manning up the middle, touchdown.
Then 2 weeks later, Quinn Ewers got hurt against UTSA in the 2nd quarter. Manning came in with Texas up 14-0, and on his first play, he threw a 19-yard touchdown. 2 offensive plays later, he ran for a 67-yard score.
Oh, look at Arch Manning. Oh, hit him with the 2-step. Arch Manning, touchdown.
He finished that game with 223 passing yards and 5 total touchdowns in a 56-7 blowout. So coming into this year, with Ewers leaving for the NFL in 2025, everybody was excited to see how good Manning was going to be. But it was an up and down battle for sure. One of his worst games was probably against Kentucky, even though Texas still won the game 16-13 in overtime. But Manning did not play well at all. He went 12 for 27 with 132 yards and no touchdowns. But just 2 weeks later against Vanderbilt, he turned it around, completing 25 of 33 pass attempts for 328 yards and 3 touchdowns, earning SEC Offensive Player of the Week.
Manning comes out slinging to Ryan Wingo down the far sideline. He's going to go all the way on the first play of the game, 75 yards and a Texas touchdown.
Then against Arkansas, he had 389 yards and 4 touchdowns through the air, plus another rushing score. He went 10-3 on the season with 3,163 yards, 26 touchdowns, 7 interceptions, and 10 rushing touchdowns, capping it all off with a Citrus Bowl win against Michigan. He did announce that he's going to be coming back to Texas for 2026, so he's going to have another chance to cement his place as a top pick in the draft. After Arch, we've got Julian Sayin, who finished high school with 7,970 yards and 86 touchdowns to just 10 interceptions. He enrolled early at Alabama during the 2023 season to practice with the team before the Rose Bowl, but then Nick Saban ended up retiring, so on January 19, 2024, Sayin entered the transfer portal and ended up at Ohio State. He only played 4 games in 2024. Then in 2025, he did get a chance and he went 12-2 as Ohio State's starter, throwing for 3,610 yards, 32 touchdowns, and 8 interceptions. Against Wisconsin in Week 7, he completed 36 of 42 pass attempts for a career-high 393 yards and 4 touchdowns. It was such a good season that he finished 4th in Heisman voting. He's got insane accuracy and a great deep ball. The only knock on him is that he's a bit shorter for a quarterback standing in at 6'1". But the way he's playing, it's looking like he's going to be a top pick when he eventually does declare for the NFL draft. That brings us to Bryce Underwood, who was the consensus #1 overall ranked high school player in the country for the 2025 class. He finished with a 50-4 record and 2 state championships. He initially committed to LSU back in 2024, but Michigan offered him around $10 million to flip. Then EA Sports put him on the cover of College Football 26, making him the first true freshman to ever have that honor. In his first year at Michigan, he went 9-4 with 2,428 yards, 11 touchdowns, and 9 interceptions. He also ran for 392 yards and 6 more scores. For a true freshman, he looked quite good, but he does need to improve, which is expected. With more time in the system, it's going to be interesting to see how dangerous this guy becomes. Since 1970, only 16 defensive players have been taken first overall in the NFL draft, and every single one of them was meant to become the kind of superstar that you build a team around. But more often than not, they didn't even come close. Some guys got injured, some became all-time busts, and only a few actually turned into legends. So today we're taking a look at every defensive #1 overall pick and the real stories about what happened to all of them. Starting back in 1972, we have Walt Patulski, who won the Vince Lombardi Award in college, which is given to the best lineman in the country. The guy was an All-American who crushed it at Notre Dame and was supposed to turn things around for the Bills. To be fair, his rookie year wasn't horrible, but it also wasn't too great either. 5 sacks in 14 games played. The problem here is that he just didn't get any better. Patulski delivered that same level of mediocre production for 4 straight years in Buffalo. After the 1975 season, the Bills had seen enough and traded him to the St. Louis Cardinals for a second-round pick. That move lasted exactly 1 season, and even though he played 14 games, he didn't start a single one and had 0 sacks. Then he suffered a career-ending back injury with the Bears during minicamp, and just like that, the former Notre Dame star was done. From a late-round draft pick, sure, you're going to take the numbers that Patulski put up, but those numbers certainly didn't cut it for the #1 overall pick in the draft. Buffalo would have been better off even taking the guy that was selected at #2 instead, Sherman White. Some people know him as Sloth from the Goonies, but way before Hollywood, John Matuszak was causing chaos in the NFL, and not just on opposing quarterbacks. The Oilers thought that they were going to get a franchise pass rusher, but instead, they got a walking headache. Matuszak signed with Houston's World Football League team while still under his NFL contract with the Oilers, which led to a restraining order being served during an actual game by the Oilers, therefore voiding his other contract. Houston traded him after just 1 season, sending him to Kansas City for Curly Culp, which is a move that totally backfired on the Chiefs when Culp turned into a future Hall of Famer. Matuszak bounced around the league dealing with drug and alcohol problems while still managing a somewhat decent career. He finally found some stability in Oakland, winning 2 Super Bowls with them. But when you consider that Matuszak is one of only 3 guys out of the top 12 in this draft class to not make a Pro Bowl, he's a bit of a disappointing choice. His Hollywood career totally overshadowed his football days, and sadly he did pass away due to an accidental overdose at the age of 38. At 6 feet 9 inches tall, Ed Jones was supposedly too tall to play football. He was given that nickname during his first practice when his pants wouldn't fit. At the time, you couldn't blame coaches for thinking that nobody that size could move fast enough to get to the quarterback. But Jones proved everybody wrong at Tennessee State, becoming a 2-time All-American. Then when draft day came around, the Cowboys made him the first player from a historically black college ever picked #1 overall. Jones got 6 sacks as a rookie and finished 3rd in Defensive Rookie of the Year voting. By his second season, he was a full-time starter, getting after quarterbacks and also doing a great job at stopping the run. In 1977, he helped Dallas win Super Bowl 12 with a 27-10 win over Denver, making himself one of the league's most feared pass rushers.
Well, I remember what a force he was in Super Bowl 12, and I felt sorry for Craig Morton.
Then at the age of 28, in what was right around his prime, Jones just walked away from football completely. He had unfinished business in boxing and went 6-0 with 5 knockouts, all on national television. He then unretired in 1980, and this is where he really became the legend that we hear about today. From 1981 through 1983, he was first-team All-Pro once and second-team All-Pro twice. By the time he retired for good at the age of 39, he had 106 sacks, 3 Pro Bowl selections, and a reputation as one of the most unique athletes ever drafted first overall. In 1976, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers had never drafted anybody before. It was their very first pick in franchise history, and they went with Leroy Selmon, two-time All-American who helped Oklahoma win back-to-back national championships. And he turned into the best player on our list so far. His rookie season unfortunately got cut short due to injuries, just 5 sacks in 8 games played. Year 2 was when Selmon exploded though, for 13 sacks in 14 games, along with 2 fumble recoveries. But his best year by far was in 1979, where he won the Defensive Player of the Year award, along with making the All-Pro First Team. He was a huge part in turning the franchise around from winning only 5 games in 78 to winning 10 in 79. And from 1979 to 1984, he also made 6 straight Pro Bowls.
I've been around great players. I've been around Howie Long, I've been around Ted Hendricks, I've been around Reggie White. But of all those players I just mentioned, the best player is Leroy Selmon.
He became the face of the franchise, retiring with 78.5 sacks after 9 seasons. All that work eventually led to him being inducted into the Hall of Fame in 1995. Selmon stuck around Tampa after football as well, becoming a bank executive and later the athletic director at South Florida. Tom Cousineau was setting records all over the place at Ohio State, and the Bills grabbed him first overall in 1979 using one of the picks that they got for trading away O.J. Simpson. The second pick in 79 was also a defender, but it wasn't until pick number 4 that we got our first Hall of Famer, which was Dan Hampton. Now, Cousineau totally shocked everybody by flat out refusing to play for Buffalo. The Canadian Football League's Montreal Alouettes actually doubled the Bills' offer and Cousineau headed north. But 3 years later, he wanted back into the NFL. And since Buffalo still owned his rights, they traded him to Cleveland for multiple draft picks, including the 14th overall pick that they later used on Jim Kelly. So I guess that one worked out just fine for the Bills in the end. As for Cousineau though, his NFL career never really lived up to the hype. He was solid but nothing special and eventually faded as a backup in San Francisco. His time in the league ended with 10 interceptions, 5 fumble recoveries, and 6.5 sacks. Kenneth Sims crushed it during his final year at Texas, finishing 8th in Heisman voting as a defensive player and helping the Longhorns reach 2nd in the nation. His NFL career started off pretty well with 3 sacks in just 9 games as a rookie, but injuries then destroyed everything he had going for him. He only managed 5 total games in year 2, and that pattern just kept going throughout his career. Sims played just 1 complete season in 8 years, dealing with knee, leg, and back problems. By the end of his career, he tallied up 17 sacks and 5 fumble recoveries over the course of 74 games. Bruce Smith actually started out looking ordinary during his first season. He managed just 6.5 sacks, showing flashes but nothing that screamed future Hall of Famer. Smith's poor training habits and lack of focus held him back, despite his crazy athleticism. He showed up for training camp significantly overweight during his rookie year and had a love for fast food. Then his teammate Darryl Talley challenged him to get serious, and around the same time he fell in love with a college counselor who motivated him to change his entire lifestyle. Smith exploded for 15 sacks in year number 2, then made his first Pro Bowl and All-Pro first team in year 3, and never looked back. Over the next 11 seasons, there was only one single time that he failed to reach double-digit sacks along with making the Pro Bowl, and that was because he missed 11 games with an injury. Smith became the most important piece of Buffalo's defense, helping them reach 4 straight Super Bowls from 1990 to 1993. Over 19 seasons, he had 200 career sacks, which is still an NFL record to this day. He also had 11 Pro Bowl appearances and 8 All-Pro first-team selections. Smith was forced to part ways with Buffalo near the end of his career due to salary cap issues, but by that point, his legacy was already cemented.
He's the greatest ever played. He's the GOAT of defensive linemen.
After retiring, Smith went back to Virginia Beach, working as a large-scale hotel designer and partnering up with former teammate Thurman Thomas for a solar energy business. The next guy to go number 1 overall was Andre Bruce, and scouts called him the next Lawrence Taylor. Atlanta was feeling pretty good about picking him, but in a draft with 7 Hall of Famers, this turned out to be a pretty epic disappointment. His rookie year looked pretty solid. 70 tackles, 6 sacks, 2 forced fumbles, and 2 interceptions over the course of 16 games. But that rookie year turned out to be his peak. The numbers pretty much dropped every season after that. from 66 tackles and 6 sacks in year number 2 down to just 40 tackles and 4 sacks by 1990. And even though he played for 11 years, he never got above 30 tackles again. Bruce eventually bounced to Oakland and switched to defensive end, but even the change of scenery and position didn't help at all. He retired with 32 career sacks, 0 Pro Bowl appearances, and the label that nobody wants, a draft bust. Moving on to 1991, we have Russell Maryland, who came from Miami with 2 national championships under his belt and a reputation as the perfect defensive tackle. He was big, strong, and surprisingly quick for his size. Dallas got solid production right from the start, as Maryland put up 4.5 sacks and 3 forced fumbles as a rookie, finishing tied for 4th in Defensive Rookie of the Year voting. And he also became a key piece of the Cowboys' championship dynasty run, winning 3 Super Bowls in 4 years. After that 3rd Super Bowl, he became a free agent. He signed with the Raiders and eventually played for the Packers as well. But individually, Maryland never hit the heights that you would expect from a number 1 pick. His only Pro Bowl came in 1993, and he was more of a good player than a superstar. We didn't have to wait too long for another defensive player to go first overall. Steve Emtman went the very next year and looked like a beast in college. An All-American who won the Outland Trophy and Vince Lombardi Award in 1991 as part of Washington's undefeated national championship team. He even finished 4th in Heisman voting as a defensive player, which is very impressive. In his rookie year, Emtman returned a 90-yard interception as time expired against Miami, sealing a massive upset win. And he also had 49 tackles along with 3 sacks in 9 games that first season.
Intercepted. Look at him go! Emtman has it. This is Steve Emtman at 6'4", 290 pounds.
But the flaw in Emtman's game was something that he couldn't control: injuries. 9 games into his rookie year, he blew out his left knee, tore his right patella tendon the following year, and later suffered a ruptured disc in his neck. He bounced between 3 teams over 6 seasons before eventually retiring. Moving on to 1994, and for the 3rd time in 4 years, we had a defensive lineman go first overall. Dan Wilkinson had a lot of hype. Some people were even calling him the best defensive lineman prospect since Reggie White. But when you get drafted before Marshall Faulk, you better be very good. The crazy thing is, he didn't even start out as a defensive player. He went from an offensive tackle to a pass rushing machine who ran a 4.72 second 40-yard dash time. So you can see exactly why teams were so high on him.
We think we know who the first pick is. Young man named Dan Wilkinson, defensive tackle extraordinaire.
He put up 5.5 sacks and 44 tackles as a rookie, followed by 8 sacks in his 2nd season despite missing 2 games. For an interior lineman, those were pretty good numbers. Wilkinson played 13 good seasons across 4 teams, but when you think of first overall draft picks, you really want to find those guys like Warren Sapp or Aaron Donald. He did have a solid career, but he just didn't give you the game-changing impact that you were hoping for. In 2000, 1 season after returning to the NFL and to Cleveland, the Browns ended up with the 1st overall pick for the 2nd year in a row. And they went with the guy who broke the Penn State record with 33 career sacks. At his pro day, Courtney Brown looked like a monster in a good way, of course. 6 feet 5 inches tall, 270 pounds, running a 4.5 second 40 and benching 225 pounds 26 times. The Browns passed on Brian Urlacher, LeVar Arrington, and Jamal Lewis to make him their franchise guy. That turned out to be a decision, let's just say that. His rookie year showed some promise with 69 tackles and 4.5 sacks, finishing 4th in Defensive Rookie of the Year voting.
Graham, and he is ambushed. Courtney Brown again!
But injuries just wrecked everything after that. I mean, he only played 61 games in 6 years, which is not ideal. He did have 1 decent comeback year in 2003 with 6 sacks, but his body just couldn't hold up. Before long, he was done, and he became yet another Cleveland draft bust in a long line of them. But in 2006, we finally got a guy who lived up to the hype, even if it wasn't the pick that every Texans fan wanted at the time. Everybody expected Houston to take either Reggie Bush or Vince Young with the first pick. Instead, they went with a defensive player. Mario Williams had set the school sack record in just 3 seasons at NC State. but he looked like a reach compared to the flashy skill position players available in this draft class. The criticism got even louder after his rookie year. 4.5 sacks and 47 tackles in 16 games felt very underwhelming for a guy getting paid $54 million over the course of 6 years. But Houston's gamble started to pay off in year 2. Williams exploded for 14 sacks in 2007, earning second-team All-Pro honors and even a vote for Defensive Player of the Year. In 2012, he signed a 6-year, $96 million deal, which made him the highest-paid defensive player in NFL history at that point.
It presents challenges for, I think, every offensive tackle in the league.
He's a freak, and that's the bottom line.
Meanwhile, you had Reggie Bush and Vince Young, the quote-unquote can't-miss guys that Houston passed on. They ended up dealing with injuries and inconsistency throughout their careers and never lived up to their own insane draft hype. Williams ended up retiring with 97.5 career sacks and 4 Pro Bowl appearances, becoming the second most productive pass rusher in Texans history behind only J.J. Watt. Okay, now this is a big one because out of all the guys on this list today, Jadeveon Clowney might have been the most hyped up out of everybody. He was a 6'5" genetic freak who ran an 11.43 second 100-meter dash time as a track sprinter while also throwing discus and shot put on the side. As a sophomore at South Carolina, he set school records with 13 sacks and 24 tackles for a loss, becoming the scariest defender in all of college football.
Wow. Michigan at the 41. What a hit! Ball's free on the ground. South Carolina deserves to have it, and they do!
The hype was absolutely massive heading into the 2014 draft, and Houston just couldn't wait to turn their prize pick loose on opposing quarterbacks. Then, disaster hit. Clowney played just 4 games as a rookie, getting 7 tackles and 0 sacks before injury shut him down. Year 2 was more of the same. 13 games, 4.5 sacks, and continued worries about whether he could stay healthy or not. But Clowney finally found his groove from 2016 to 2018, earning 3 straight Pro Bowl selections with the Texans.
He has speed, power, and quickness, so he has really all 3. That's extremely rare for a guy of his size to be able to do that.
He never really hit the insane superstar level that everybody predicted though, topping out at 9.5 sacks in a season and failing to produce big numbers ever since that 2018 season. After leaving Houston, Clowney basically became a journeyman, bouncing between Seattle, Tennessee, Cleveland, Baltimore, Carolina, and most recently he finished off the 2025 season with Dallas. But one thing that we can all agree on, in 2017, Cleveland finally got it right. After literally decades of draft day disasters, Myles Garrett became the first defensive player since Reggie White who turned into the kind of monster that every team would draft if they had this pick over again. Garrett broke Jadeveon Clowney's SEC freshman sack record and then the very next year led the conference in sacks as a sophomore. Even playing through a high ankle sprain as a junior, he still had 8.5 sacks. Scouts were calling this guy a once-in-a-decade talent who was NFL ready from day one. His rookie year, he had 7 sacks in 11 games, but in year 2, Garrett blew up. He had 13.5 sacks, made his first Pro Bowl, and earned second-team All-Pro honors. And that was just the beginning. From 2020 through 2025, he's been either first or second-team All-Pro every single season and won Defensive Player of the Year in 2023.
What did he look like on film when you're studying?
A superhuman freak.
He's had double-digit sacks in 8 of his 9 seasons, 125.5 career sacks already, and is playing at a Hall of Fame pace after breaking the all-time single-season sack record with 23 in 2025. And he's so athletic that he's not just a weapon rushing the passer.
He jumped right over the center.
Man.
He went Superman. How athletic is this guy?
While other first overall picks have bounced around the league or flamed out entirely, Garrett has become exactly the player that the Browns have been looking for. And the most recent defensive player to go first overall is Travon Walker out of Georgia. He had incredible size and speed and won the Natty in 2021. He was picked number 1 overall because of his athleticism that you just can't teach. Jacksonville saw the potential, and every now and again, he shows off that athleticism.
And Wentz goes back at it, and it's intercepted in a crowd. Oh, it's Travon Walker in his first NFL game.
But his rookie season with 3.5 sacks in 15 games felt pretty disappointing, especially when Aiden Hutchinson was tearing it up in Detroit after going 2nd overall. But Walker's development has been encouraging. He hit 10 sacks in 2023 and 10.5 in 2024, becoming just the 2nd Jaguar ever to put up back-to-back double-digit sack seasons alongside Calais Campbell. When you watch him play, he's obviously an elite run stopper as well. The Jags picked up Walker's 5th-year option in April of 2025, so they obviously see the potential. It's going to be interesting to see if that pays off next season, especially with their newly renovated roster on offense and Trevor Lawrence's play improving. Some of these number 1 picks became Hall of Famers. Others never played a single down in the NFL, and 3 franchises, the Seahawks, Broncos, and Ravens, have never held the top pick at all. When was your team's most recent number 1 pick? And if you don't know, you're about to find out, because in this video, we're going through every single team to see how their last number 1 pick panned out. We're going to do this alphabetically by team, city, and or state. So that starts us off with Kyler Murray, drafted by the Arizona Cardinals in 2019. He came out hot, winning Offensive Rookie of the Year, throwing for 3,722 yards, 20 touchdowns, and 12 interceptions, while also running for 544 more yards. He had unreal speed and quickness that made him a nightmare to defend when he was fully healthy.
Murray keeps. Shows his speed and slides.
He took another step forward in 2020 and 2021, making the Pro Bowl both seasons and also leading the Cardinals to respectable records of 8-8 and 9-5 as a starter those years. But I think the real downfall of Kyler Murray happened in 2022. In Week 14 against the Patriots, Murray took off to scramble and tore his ACL. For a player as mobile as himself, this was heartbreaking, and not a lot of people can ever fully recover from an injury like that. 2023 was about testing that leg and getting back into playing shape. 2024 was a step in the right direction, but 2025 was a nightmare. Arizona finished 3-14 as one of the worst teams in the league. Kyler was placed on IR because of a foot injury, and he lost his job to Jacoby Brissett. And worst of all, it's looking like the Cardinals are going to move on from Murray next season. Now, Kyler had some crazy speed coming out of college, but it was nothing compared to Michael Vick, who was one of the most electric players of all time and for sure the most broken Madden player ever. 2004 was classic Vick. He finished as MVP runner-up after leading the Falcons to an 11-4 record as a starter, and he also ran for 902 yards on the year. Nobody had ever seen a player quite as explosive as him when it came to a running quarterback. Everybody thought that Vick would run the league for years, but he lost his prime years to the dogfighting scandal and served time in federal prison, which was just a huge fall from grace. He did make a comeback with the Eagles and lit up Washington on Monday Night Football. I'm sure a lot of you remember that game. The guy had 333 yards passing, 80 rushing, 6 total touchdowns in a 59-28 blowout. That game right there makes you wonder, what would he have been like if we never missed his prime? After his run with the Eagles came to an end, Vick played with the Jets and the Steelers, but by that point in time, he was in his mid-30s and the magic was gone. Nowadays, he's the head coach of the Norfolk State Spartans football team. The Bills haven't had a top pick in quite some time. For over a decade, this guy terrorized opposing quarterbacks. He made 11 Pro Bowls, earned 8 first-team All-Pro nods, and played in 4 straight Super Bowls. It would almost be impossible for them to top this pick. The guy was an all-time great who dominated for 19 years. For the sake of keeping this video semi-short, this is all I'm going to include about Smith, but just know, he's a legend. And next up, we have Bryce Young, drafted number 1 in 2023. The Panthers were desperately hoping that he would be the answer to their quarterback problem. I wouldn't say he's fully answered their prayers just yet, but he's certainly headed in the right direction. After going 2-14 during his rookie year, many people were ready to write him off as a bust. But towards the end of the 2024 season, Young gave Carolina some hope. Throughout the final 3 games, he threw for 612 yards, 7 touchdowns, and 0 interceptions. In 2025, he did a great job carrying over that momentum. The Panthers won their division even though they finished with a negative 8-9 record due to a divisional tiebreaker. Currently, I don't think they're a real playoff threat, but with a few more pieces, they could certainly be down the line. 2024 was an interesting year for Caleb Williams. The Hail Mary against the Commanders, the talk with CJ Stroud. One thing stayed consistent for the Bears though, and that was them having a losing record. They finished the year 5-12. And worst of all, it looked like Jaden Daniels stole the show and should have been the real number 1 pick when he won Rookie of the Year. But in 2025, the script was flipped. Williams threw 4 touchdowns in a big Week 3 win over Dallas, looked great versus the Bengals in Week 9, and continued that level of play up until their recent playoff loss to the Rams. After leading the Bears to the playoffs for the first time since 2020, the future looks a little brighter in Chicago. The Bengals lucked out big time, landing Joe Burrow with the #1 overall pick in 2020. The only problem so far has been the consistent injuries. After tearing his ACL, MCL, PCL, and meniscus in his rookie year, Burrow led the Bengals all the way to Super Bowl 56 against the Rams in the 2021 season. In 2024, he led the league with 4,918 yards along with 43 touchdowns and might have won MVP if the Bengals had any sort of defense.
Joey B, that boy's a monster. I mean, I'm just calling it what it is. That boy's a monster.
But like I said, injuries have been a real issue. He's already won Comeback Player of the Year twice and could be in the running for a third time after missing most of the 2025 season. This next guy up completely reinvented himself on a new team, because in 2018, the Browns had their second shot at taking a guy #1 overall in back-to-back years, and this time around, they chose Baker Mayfield. Baker did all he could to turn Cleveland's franchise around, but after a few years, things fell apart. It's crazy to think at one point after leaving the Browns, Baker was there running scout team defense for the Panthers. The career-defining moment for Baker was when he was a part of the Los Angeles Rams. They were up against the Raiders in a Thursday night game that was meaningless to some, but not Mayfield. With the game on the line late in the fourth quarter, he led a 98-yard drive to give the Rams the win. The rest was history. Baker landed a starting job with the Bucs in 2023 and has been one of the most exciting players in the league ever since. For the Cowboys, we have to go back to 1991. They traded for the #1 pick, aiming to grab Rocket Ismail, but took Russell Maryland when Ismail signed with the CFL. Although they didn't land the guy they were hoping for, Maryland turned out to be a blessing in disguise. He was a two-time champ in college, won 3 Super Bowls with Dallas, and made the Pro Bowl in 1993. Maryland was a 300-pound run stuffer who was a true leader. You know how they say the best ability is availability? Well, he started 140 of a possible 154 games in his career and always was putting in maximum effort. Then we jump to 2009. Matthew Stafford played through the Lions' worst years, but was tough as nails and had a rocket for an arm. He won Comeback Player of the Year in 2011 after having surgery for an AC joint separation. That year, he threw for over 5,000 passing yards, 41 touchdowns, and led the Lions to a 10-6 record and their first playoff appearance since 1999. Him throwing to Calvin Johnson was something special that was very underappreciated looking back on things. Unfortunately, those two could never win together, and Johnson called it quits in 2016. As for Stafford though, once he made his way out of Detroit, he experienced what he deserved, a Super Bowl victory with the Rams. And now at age 37, he's having maybe his best season ever, with a career high passer rating. Rich Eisen said this season might seal his Hall of Fame case, and when he's playing like this, it's hard to disagree with him. Then we've got the Packers all the way back in 1959. They picked Randy Duncan, a star quarterback at Iowa, but he chose to play in the CFL and later the AFL. He never suited up for Green Bay. The crazy thing is Vince Lombardi was hired just 2 months after that draft, so Duncan narrowly missed out on being a huge part of history. Jadeveon Clowney was one of the most hyped up defensive prospects ever. His career with Houston started out rough though. He tore his meniscus during his rookie year and missed all but 4 games. 2015 was mainly about him getting a feel for the NFL and recovering from that injury, but 2016 is when he started playing great. For 3 straight years, Clowney made the Pro Bowl, combining for 158 tackles, 24.5 sacks, and 4 forced fumbles. And because of that 3-year stretch, you can't really say he's a bust, but he's never had more than 10 sacks in a season. And I know sacks aren't everything, but it sure does add some value when you can get to the quarterback. He's now played for 7 different teams in 12 years, and the fact that teams keep on calling says everything about how freakish of an athlete he really is. In 2012, the Colts had their most recent pick with Andrew Luck. He was seen as a generational prospect out of Stanford, and he made an immediate impact, setting rookie passing records and leading a 2-14 team to an 11-5 season in the playoffs the very next year. He followed that up with back-to-back AFC South division titles, and everybody thought he would be a staple in the league for years to come.
Part of what makes him great is he has the ability to stand tall in the pocket, take hits, and throw the ball, but then he also has the speed and the agility to get outside the pocket and run on his own if he has to.
The Colts could have easily been right up there with the Chiefs battling for the AFC title every year, but injuries piled up and his body just couldn't hold up. He retired just as he was hitting his prime, basically because the Colts could not protect him. Then in 2024, he returned to Stanford as the team's general manager. Alright, hopping to 2022, this draft class was pretty weak at the top, which meant the Jags were in a tough spot. They picked Travon Walker, who's a freak athlete, and he just won the national title with Georgia. For a while, it looked like a reach.
I don't see the quickness outside. I don't see the hand usage. I don't see that. So I don't see one-on-one domination to be the #1 pick overall. And I went back to the history books and I looked at the guys that went high. They quadruple the numbers, Scott, in terms of those finishing numbers.
His size and speed made him a top pick, but the production took time. After a slow rookie year, he posted back-to-back 10-sack seasons and improved against the run. As far as 2025 goes, he played well, but it doesn't seem like he's reached his full potential yet. 2013 was another one of those weird draft classes where you almost didn't want the top pick. So the Chiefs picked Eric Fisher, because at least he was a safe option. He made 2 Pro Bowls towards the end of his time with Kansas City, then spent 2021 with the Colts and landed on the Dolphins in 2022, but never played for Miami. He even got himself a ring after they won Super Bowl 54. So I would say his career was pretty great compared to most. Next, we're heading to 2016 when the Rams picked Jared Goff. He had a rough start as a rookie, going 0-7 as a starter, but followed that up by leading the Rams to 2 straight NFC West championships, along with 2 straight Pro Bowl appearances. They even made it to Super Bowl 53 against the Patriots, but their offense was stopped dead in its tracks as they could only muster up 3 points the entire game. After 2 more seasons of playing good but not bringing LA home a Super Bowl, the Rams traded him for Matthew Stafford, a deal that worked for both sides. Since joining the Lions, Goff's played like a top-tier quarterback. With the Rams, he never really felt like that guy, and I do have to say, it feels like Goff needs to get the job done soon or else his time might be up. Up to this point in his career, he has over 39,000 passing yards, over 250 touchdown passes, and has made the Pro Bowl 4 times. Jake Long, on the other hand, was elite right from the start, with 4 straight Pro Bowls to start his career with the Dolphins. Injuries slowed him down late in his run with Miami, then he joined the Rams in free agency, but 2 torn ACLs there changed everything. He retired in 2017, and in 2024, he was inducted into the Michigan Sports Hall of Fame. Another thing I have to give Long props for is that he is down more than 70 pounds in the last couple of years, and it's hard to even recognize this guy anymore. Now this one might surprise a lot of you guys, but the Vikings haven't actually picked first since 1968. They took Ron Yari, who became one of the best offensive linemen ever. He was first-team All-Pro 6 straight years from 1971 to 1976, made 7 Pro Bowls, and was on the All-1970s team. The guy was a lock for the Hall of Fame. He played 14 seasons with the Vikings and 1 with the Rams, and only missed 2 games due to injury his entire time in Minnesota. The Patriots have been so dominant for so long that you have to go back to 1993 for their last shot at the top pick, and they chose Drew Bledsoe, who, to be fair, ended a 7-year playoff drought, leading them to 4 postseason trips, 2 division titles, and a Super Bowl 31 appearance. In 1994, he led the league with 4,555 passing yards, but also 27 picks. He was never truly elite, finishing with a 77.1 career passer rating, but he got the job done. Unfortunately, he's best remembered for getting injured and being replaced by Tom Brady in the 2001 season.
Bledsoe gonna run it. Needs 10 yards. Oh, does he hit?
After being replaced by Brady, he was traded to Buffalo in 2002 and then spent 2 years with the Cowboys in 2005 and 2006. At the time of his retirement, Bledsoe finished with 44,611 passing yards, 251 touchdowns, and 206 interceptions. Alright, hopping back to 1981, we've got the Saints, who chose George Rogers. This guy won the Heisman during his final year at South Carolina and exploded as a rookie with 1,674 rushing yards, 1,800 yards from scrimmage, and 13 touchdowns. He made first-team All-Pro and won Offensive Rookie of the Year. He had 3 more seasons over 1,000 scrimmage yards, led the league with 18 touchdowns in 1986, and won a Super Bowl with Washington in 1987, but injuries eventually caught up to him. Rodgers also struggled to stay away from the blow, which you could say contributed to his decline. At the time of his retirement, he had 7,544 total yards from scrimmage and scored 54 touchdowns. 16 years before that, the Giants had their most recent pick. He made the Pro Bowl as a fullback with the Giants during his rookie year, playing 6 seasons for them before a knee injury forced his retirement in 1971. He had 3,220 yards from scrimmage and 17 total touchdowns. He was also inducted into the College Football Hall of Fame in 1994. Then there's Keyshawn Johnson, who the Jets picked in 1996. He played 11 seasons, made 3 Pro Bowls, and had 4 1,000-yard seasons. He even won a Super Bowl with the Bucs in that 2002 season. But when you go first overall as a wide receiver, people were hoping that he would be some insane talent. What the Jets got was good production. But Keyshawn is probably a good example of why teams haven't drafted a #1 overall receiver since then. After retiring in 2007, he went into TV work with ESPN and also has appeared on Undisputed. As for the Raiders' last shot at the #1 pick, nobody's forgetting this one anytime soon. Jamarcus Russell had all the physical abilities you could ever want, but the complete opposite in character. Most of us have heard about the blank tape story, I'm sure, but if you're new to the NFL or NFL content, I'm going to catch you up really quickly. While Russell was with the Raiders, they were beginning to realize that his attitude might be slightly concerning, specifically his laziness. So they decided to give him a blank DVD with plays on it to see if he would actually watch it. To keep the story short, he didn't, and then he lied to them about it. That was all the Raiders needed to hear. The guy was arguably the biggest bust of all time. He finished with 4,083 passing yards, 18 touchdowns, and 23 interceptions. And then we have the defending Super Bowl champs and the team that hasn't picked first since 1949, the Philadelphia Eagles. And Chuck Bednarik might just be one of the most impressive players of all time. I mean, just look at this. He was a linebacker and center who played college football for Penn. When the Eagles drafted him, he played all 14 seasons of his career with them. And during that time, he made 8 Pro Bowls, was first team All-Pro 6 times, won 2 championships, and made the All-1950s team. But the thing is, he actually played offensive line and defense, and made All-Pro at both positions. His biggest play was probably in the 1960 NFL Championship game. Bednarik played both ways and was literally on the field for 58 minutes. Then on the final play, he saved the game.
Short pass to Jim Taylor. Taylor brings the crowd to its feet as he nearly gets loose, but Chuck Bednarik grabs him on the 10, and that's the end of the line.
He was inducted into the Pro Football Hall of Fame in 1967, his first year of eligibility, and the College Football Hall of Fame in 1969. When the NFL did their 100th anniversary team, he was on it, and he was also ranked number 35 in NFL Network's top 100 players of all time. But that's not even the craziest thing about this guy, because he did all of this after serving in World War II at age 20 with 30 combat missions over Nazi Germany. I mean, how do you possibly top that? Up next is the Steelers. In 1970, they picked Terry Bradshaw, and that obviously worked out pretty well. He won 4 Super Bowls in 6 years and was the first quarterback to get 3 titles and obviously eventually 4. He had a huge arm. What really made him awesome to watch was how he took things to the next level in the postseason. His regular season passer rating was 70.9, but it jumped up to 83.0 in the playoffs. The best example is that 1978 season where he won MVP. He had 790 yards and 8 touchdowns in the postseason with a 104.1 passer rating, compared to his 84.7 that he had in the regular season. He was inducted into the Hall of Fame in 1989 and has co-hosted Fox NFL Sunday since 1994. You've got to feel sorry for the Chargers because their last #1 pick was 2004 and they only had this guy for about 45 minutes. Yeah, we're talking about Eli Manning. This guy was just one of the weirdest quarterbacks in NFL history. He had a 50% win percentage in the regular season and led the league in picks 3 different times, but went 8-4 in the postseason with 2 iconic Super Bowl wins over the Patriots. He He wasn't always great, but in big moments, he pulled off some ridiculous throws. I don't know if he's going to make the Hall of Fame or not. I mean, he probably will, but the fact is, he's a huge part of NFL history over the last couple of decades. Eli retired with over 57,000 passing yards, 366 touchdowns, and 4 Pro Bowl appearances to his name, along with 2 Super Bowl rings and the title of Tom Brady's dad. Now you can find him co-hosting the Manning Cast with his brother Peyton on Monday nights. Next up is 2005, and this was one of the most memorable drafts of all time thanks to Aaron Rodgers falling hard. Sadly, Alex Smith did not live up to the hype of a #1 pick, and being in the same draft as one of the greatest quarterbacks ever didn't exactly help him out. But he eventually turned things around in San Francisco, and especially in Kansas City, where he made 3 Pro Bowls in 5 seasons. Probably his most impressive accomplishment was coming back from that brutal leg injury to win Comeback Player of the Year in 2020 with Washington.
Amputation at one point was a possibility, and now 693 days later, here he is coming back on an NFL football field.
Smith finished up his career with 35,650 passing yards, 199 touchdowns, and 109 interceptions. Did somebody say interceptions? Sorry, Jameis, I just had to do it to you. Winston went first overall in 2015 to the Buccaneers, and he is known for his iconic 33 touchdown, 30 interception season in 2019. Jameis is a team leader and a super likable guy, but he doesn't always make the best decisions. Over the course of his career, he hasn't really found a consistent home because of that. I'll tell you one thing though, he is not afraid to sling the ball around to his receivers. Over the course of his career, he's racked up over 24,000 yards so far, and is currently serving as the backup for the Giants. He made the Pro Bowl as a rookie and also came in second place for Offensive Rookie of the Year, but since then, no awards. Not exactly what you want to see from a #1 overall pick, but still a ton of fun to root for and watch nonetheless. Now for the most recent team to pick first, the Titans. And before this, they hadn't picked first since Earl Campbell in 1978. Let's just say that pick worked out pretty well. Fast forward to 2025 and they took Cam Ward. It's only been 1 season and he's certainly displayed some talent, but his team really let him down. But it's still early. Quarterbacks usually need some time. Just look at guys like Baker Mayfield or Sam Darnold. Even Josh Allen had a 67.9 passer rating as a rookie. Fingers crossed Ward is going to figure it out like those other guys. The problem right now is the Titans are currently the worst team in the league with no signs of improvement. Then to cap things off, we have one of the saddest stories in draft history. Ernie Davis was a Heisman winning halfback at Syracuse and was the first African-American player to ever win the award. He wore number 44 just like Jim Brown and broke Brown's records for rushing yards, all-purpose yardage, and scoring in college. Washington took him first overall in 1962, then traded him to Cleveland. But that same year, he was diagnosed with leukemia and passed away at just 23 years old, without ever playing an NFL game. It's crazy to think that he would have shared a backfield with Jim Brown. Picture this, you're drafted first overall as a quarterback, and overnight millions of fans expect you to fix a franchise that's been losing for years. One moment you're walking across the stage with the world calling you a savior, and a few years later you might be on your 3rd team or out of the league completely. Since 1970, 29 quarterbacks have been given that spotlight, so how often are they actually worth that #1 pick? In this video, we're going year by year through every single one of them to see who became a legend and who vanished from the game. Starting with Terry Bradshaw, who was literally trying to go fishing on draft day because he didn't think he was going to get picked so high up. His dad made him throw on a jacket when Pittsburgh called to say that they were taking him first overall. That confidence boost did not last long though. His rookie year was a complete mess with 24 interceptions and only 6 touchdowns. It was looking like a rocky marriage, but talk about a comeback. Bradshaw, who by the way called his own plays for his entire 14-year career, won 4 Super Bowls and 2 Super Bowl MVP awards, while also being inducted into the Hall of Fame in 1989.
Turns out it was a perfect marriage because the proof's in the pudding. The guy's got more rings than a married pimp.
Jim Plunkett was called the best quarterback prospect ever by UCLA coach Tommy Prothro, but after 5 years with New England, he got traded. He went to the 49ers, who cut him after 2 seasons, and he seriously thought about quitting football entirely before the Raiders threw him a backup job. When Dan Pastorini got hurt, Plunkett stepped in and somehow took the Raiders from 0-2 to a Super Bowl championship in 1980.
Because without Jim Plunkett's expertise and guidance, you could really build a good case that maybe those 2 Super Bowls might not have actually happened.
Then, 3 years later, they won it all again. New England and San Francisco fans would certainly consider Plunkett as a bust, but Raiders fans have to be thankful for him bringing home the Lombardi Trophy 2 times. Moving on to 1975, the Falcons actually traded up to number 1 just to get Steve Bartkowski, and you know what? In a way, they got their money's worth, even though things were very up and down with him. In 1980, Bartkowski led the league in passing touchdowns with 31, along with having the most game-winning drives by any quarterback. This guy played 11 seasons with knee damage so bad, he literally had 0 cartilage left between his bones. He went through 11 knee surgeries, but still got Atlanta their first ever playoff win and made the Pro Bowl 2 times. Now, John Elway is exactly what every NFL team is hoping for when they get that number 1 overall pick. Minus the mind games anyways. Because he straight up told the Baltimore Colts when they drafted him that he would rather play baseball for the Yankees than suit up for them. Baltimore had no choice really but to trade him to Denver, where he started to show why he was worth all that drama in year number 2. Elway's clutch factor was out of this world. In 1985, he led the league with 6 fourth-quarter comebacks and managed to lead the league in that category twice after that.
I remember the drive. I remember watching the drive on television, but to experience it and be a part of it is something entirely different.
He carried teams that had no business being in Super Bowls and got them there through pure arm talent and willpower. Sure, he lost 3 early on, but finally when he got Terrell Davis running the ball, he went out on top with back-to-back championships to finish off his career. Next up, we've got Vinny Testaverde, who played 21 seasons for 7 different teams, all while being colorblind. The story goes that fans were so mean they put up a billboard saying, "Vinny thinks this is orange," with an arrow pointing to a blue background. The Heisman winner from Miami was supposed to be the next big thing, but his second season was brutal with 35 interceptions, which is still the second most in NFL history for a single season. But this guy just kept grinding for over 2 decades, and he eventually became the oldest starting quarterback for a season at the age of 44 with Carolina, although Tom Brady eventually topped that in Tampa Bay. Testaverde's best year was 1998 with the Jets, where he led them to a 12-1 record as a starter and a first-place finish in the AFC East. He threw for 3,256 yards, 29 touchdowns, and just 7 interceptions. Unfortunately, they were knocked out of the playoffs in the AFC Championship game by that John Elway-led Broncos team. When Troy Aikman was drafted first overall in 1989, Dallas knew that they had something special. One of his biggest moments came in Super Bowl 27, where he torched the Bills for 273 yards and 4 touchdowns in a 52-17 beatdown. That capped off one of the best playoff runs that we have ever seen. 795 passing yards, 8 touchdowns, and 0 interceptions across 3 games. That's right up there with Joe Montana in '89 and close to Joe Flacco in 2012. And sure, Aikman did have Emmitt Smith and that monster offensive line, but he was the steady guy who led Dallas to 3 Super Bowl wins, and his arm talent was legit. Nowadays, he's probably more famous for his Monday Night Football broadcast, but you cannot forget about what he used to do on the football field. The Colts traded away 2 players, including a 6-time Pro Bowler at the time, along with a couple of draft picks to move up and grab Jeff George first overall. But before the 1993 season began, he refused to report to training camp, which isn't exactly what you want from your starting quarterback, or your number 1 overall pick for that matter. He got traded to Atlanta the year after and actually led the NFL in game-winning drives in 1995, getting them into the playoffs. But those attitude problems always came back to bite him in the end. It was so bad that he actually got into a screaming match with his coach on live TV, which you won't be surprised to hear this, but it got him suspended. And even though they said it was overblown, he still left for the Raiders the very next year. And the funny part is, even though they couldn't win games, George still led the league in passing yards during that first year with Oakland. So we all know Drew Bledsoe as the guy who got injured and replaced by Tom Brady. But did you guys know that the same hit almost ended his life? I mean, he could have died without emergency treatment.
Yeah, if they let me go home, I would have died. I was bleeding out at about 1 liter an hour internally. And by the time they got me to the hospital, I was out.
Before that moment, he was a Pro Bowl quarterback. New England basically drafted him to save their franchise, and he did a solid job at that for almost 10 years. His second season, he led the NFL with 4,555 passing yards, although he also threw 27 picks. New England had him throwing the ball non-stop as he led the league in attempts for 3 straight years from 1994 to 1996. His biggest moment was in 1996 when he got the Patriots to their first Super Bowl since 1985, even though they ended up losing to Brett Favre's Packers. These days, Bledsoe loves trolling Brady on social media and making fun of his quote-unquote squeaky voice as a broadcaster. I mean, the guy has absolutely no filter, and it's pretty damn funny to listen to. Okay, we've had Elway, but as far as #1 overall picks go, Peyton Manning might be the best of the bunch, which makes it especially crazy to think that half the NFL executives actually wanted Ryan Leaf over him back in the day.
He's been, brought up by his dad. He's had great coaching. He's been in the pro system. He's as good as he's going to be.
One personnel guy even said that if his name was Peyton Jones instead of Manning, he'd be a 3rd-round pick because of his weak arm. Obviously, we now know the Colts nailed this pick. He knew offense and defensive schemes better than most coaches did. That prep work, along with his insane talent, got him 5 MVPs, 2 Super Bowls, and a bunch of records. When you watched him play, you just got a sense that he was elevating the entire team, and he could probably do it on any team for that matter, which you cannot say for most quarterbacks.
If you take him out the game, no disrespect to nobody else on the Colts, but you make them a very below average ball club.
One of his biggest moments was in Super Bowl 41 against Chicago. Down 14-6, Manning came back to beat the Bears 29-17 and finally got that Super Bowl MVP. But honestly, his 2013 season in Denver might have been even better. 55 touchdowns and 5,477 yards with an offense that basically broke football. 1 year after Manning, Tim Couch was taken first, and you really can't draw up more of an opposite story. Tim Couch came from Hyden, Kentucky, which had a population of about 360 people when he was drafted. Couch set national high school records, but man, the Browns were just about the worst spot that any quarterback could have landed. Injuries wrecked his career before he really could figure things out, and now he's mostly famous for that jersey meme with all the Browns quarterbacks' names on the back. If we give Peyton Manning the award for best quarterback on this list, Michael Vick gets the most exciting. This guy completely changed what it meant to be a quarterback. Remember that play against the Vikings where he made 2 defenders tackle each other while he slipped away? That's the kind of stuff that forced every defensive coordinator to totally rethink how they game plan for mobile quarterbacks. And he was also the first quarterback to rush for 1,000 yards in a season, hitting 1,039 yards in 2006. Then everything crashed with the whole dogfighting thing.
First, I want to apologize, for all the things that I've done and that I've allowed to happen. I will redeem myself.
He was sentenced to 23 months in prison, and his career was looking done at the age of 27. But Vick's Eagles comeback was unbelievable. In 2010, he threw for over 3,000 yards and 21 touchdowns, showing that he still had that spark. And that Monday Night Football game against Washington might be one of the most dominant performances that I have personally ever seen. That's the kind of game where everything just works and there is really nothing the opposing team can do to stop it. I mean, when the first play of the game is an 88-yard touchdown pass, you just knew it was going to be a long night for Washington. But if Vick got derailed through his own character issues, David Carr got absolutely crushed behind what might be one of the worst offensive lines, if not the worst offensive line in NFL history. This was the first season for the Texans, coming into the league as an expansion team, and they let him get sacked a record 76 times as a rookie. The guy was sacked the most 3 out of his first 4 seasons in the league. You just can't develop when you're running for your life every single play. Carr had real arm talent and accuracy coming out of Fresno State, but Houston's front office basically threw him to the wolves. You can argue that we got robbed of prime Carson Palmer as well. He was putting together a really solid career in Cincinnati until the Steelers completely wrecked his knee. He was never quite the same guy after that, and I mean, can you really blame him? But he still managed to have a whole second career in Arizona after basically refusing to play for the Bengals and forcing a trade and a stint in Oakland that's best to forget about. He made the Pro Bowl for the first time since 2006. It was cool to see that he still had elite skills when he had the right team around him and some actual protection. 2015 was the highlight of his time with the Cardinals, where he threw for 4,671 yards, 35 touchdowns, while leading the league in QBR and game-winning drives. We haven't had any draft day drama for a minute, so let's just move on to Eli Manning here, who was a Charger for exactly 45 minutes on draft day before getting shipped to the Giants. Eli is one of the weirdest quarterbacks ever. He pulled off two of the most shocking Super Bowl upsets in history, beating that undefeated Patriots team in the 2007 season, then beating the Pats again in Super Bowl 46. He was a two-time Super Bowl MVP who somehow always stepped up in the playoffs, even though he was pretty up and down during the regular seasons. I mean, look at his record. Literally a 50% win rate with 117 wins and 117 losses in the regular season. And yet, he'll still probably get into the Hall of Fame because he's such a key part of NFL history. Alex Smith was such a smart dude that he graduated college in 2 years with a 3.74 GPA in economics and was working on his master's before even getting drafted. But his NFL start was rough. Smith was injured much more than the average player and also had to deal with 5 different offensive coordinators in 6 years before Jim Harbaugh finally figured out how to let him thrive. Smith turned into the ultimate game manager type of guy, getting teams into the playoffs, but never really living up to those first overall expectations. And then that brutal 2018 leg injury almost ended his entire career. But he was tough as nails and returned for one final season, winning Comeback Player of the Year. In hindsight, it's kind of weird thinking what things would have looked like if the 49ers went with Aaron Rodgers instead with that #1 pick. Alright, sorry Raiders fans, but this pick is just peak Raiders. It will never not be crazy to me that they picked Jamarcus Russell when they could have traded down and had Adrian Peterson, Calvin Johnson, Patrick Willis, Darrelle Revis, or Joe Thomas, all basically GOAT tier guys at their positions. Yeah, Russell could launch a ball 70 yards flat-footed, but he had about 1 million red flags. Then the guy held out for so long during his rookie year that he even missed out on week 1, didn't play until week 13 of that year, skipped mandatory team meetings to hit up Vegas, and got benched by his 3rd season after completing less than 50% of his passes. His coaches also gave him blank tapes to see if he was studying the film. Spoiler alert, he wasn't. Russell couldn't have cared any less. But you cannot say that same thing about the next guy on our list. Matthew Stafford spent over 10 years dragging awful Lions teams around before finally getting his ring with the Rams in 2021. This dude was making no-look passes and threading balls into tiny windows seem easy to do. His rookie year basically told you everything about his heart. Playing through a separated shoulder, mic'd up so you could hear him wincing in pain, still throwing the game-winning touchdown while he's clearly hurting.
Stafford sets, looks, now running back to his right. Stafford looking for somewhere to go, sets and throws. Oh! Last play of the game, takes the snap, rolls, end zone. Touchdown, Detroit Lions!
When the Rams got him in 2021, Stafford finally had the pieces around him to match that rocket arm, and he led them straight to a Super Bowl victory. If you ask me though, there is nothing compared to the connection that Stafford and Calvin Johnson had back in Detroit. They were a blast to watch. Now we're going to go from one Rams quarterback to another, and it's kind of weird to think how long Sam Bradford has been out of the league when Stafford is still contending for championships. After winning Offensive Rookie of the Year, Bradford's career turned upside down. Torn ACLs, shoulder issues, high ankle sprains, knee problems. This guy could not stay healthy for long enough to do anything. Props to him though, because he did make more money than most NFL Hall of Famers. Moving on to Cam Newton, and this guy became the only rookie quarterback ever to throw for 400 yards in his first game. Plus, he did it on the road, immediately showing everybody that he was something totally different. And then he went and did it again in week 2. At 245 pounds, he was trucking linebackers one play and dropping dimes the very next.
Whenever he first got into the NFL, everybody looked at him and said, if this guy figures it out, we're all in trouble.
His 2015 MVP season was awesome. Newton took the Panthers to a 15-1 record while dabbing on defenders and giving his touchdown balls to kids in the stands. The Superman thing, the swagger, the way he carried that whole franchise to Super Bowl 50, you just had to watch every single week. It's kind of a shame that he dropped off so fast after 2018, but he still had one of the best careers for a quarterback taken first overall. It only took one more draft to get another generational guy at the top spot. Scouts called Andrew Luck the most NFL-ready quarterback prospect ever coming out of Stanford, and he pretty much backed that up right away. He set the rookie passing yards record and dragged some pretty terrible Colts teams to 3 straight playoff runs through pure talent and toughness. That 2014 AFC wildcard game was the perfect example, coming back from 28 points down against the Kansas City Chiefs and coming out with a win. He was getting absolutely crushed, taking shot after shot, but still making crazy throws downfield. The shoulder injury that wiped out his 2017 season changed everything. When he came back in 2018, he looked great again, got the Colts to the playoffs and threw 39 touchdowns, but all the physical and mental wear had been piling up for years.
Hello. This certainly isn't how I envisioned this or planned this, but I am going to retire. This is not an easy decision. Honestly, it's the hardest decision of my life.
His retirement announcement right before the 2019 season shocked everybody, but it totally made sense for him. Luck was done with the constant rehab, done playing hurt, done with that whole cycle of getting injured and trying to come back over and over again. It's one of the NFL's biggest what-if stories, but you can't really blame the guy for putting himself first. Next up, we've got Jameis Winston, drafted first overall in 2015. Do me a favor now. Close your eyes and imagine the most consistent quarterback of all time. All right, now open up your eyes because Jameis Winston is not that guy. He made history in 2019 as the first NFL player to ever throw 30 touchdowns and 30 interceptions in the same year, creating a 30 for 30 club that nobody wants to be in. Winston's 5 years in Tampa Bay were basically a highlight reel and a blooper reel all mixed into one. Perfect touchdown throws followed by easy pick sixes. The second Tom Brady became available, Tampa dumped him and won the Super Bowl. But if you want a motivational speech or a good laugh, Jameis is still your guy. Sometimes the number 1 pick delivers right away, sometimes they're a bust, and sometimes you get Jared Goff. He went 0-7 as a rookie and looked completely lost until Sean McVay walked in and basically turned him into a Super Bowl caliber quarterback overnight. When the Rams shipped him to Detroit for Matthew Stafford, it felt like they'd figured out his limits, but Goff has been killing it with the Lions with multiple playoff runs and even getting some MVP votes in 2024. The 2025-26 season did feel like a step back for the Lions, who really need to make a Super Bowl run soon because the clock is ticking for Goff. It's hard to top that for crazy journeys, but Baker Mayfield might just give Goff a run for his money. He walked on at Texas Tech and Oklahoma, won the Heisman, then planted that Oklahoma flag right at midfield in Ohio State Stadium, one of the most viral college football moments ever. Cleveland took him first overall as kind of a surprise pick, but when he started in week 3, he led a comeback win over the Jets in a big Thursday night game. After the Browns traded for Deshaun Watson, Mayfield got bounced around a bit. Many people thought he was headed out of the league in 2022 after his stint with Carolina, but then he put together one game-winning drive for the Rams that changed his entire career path.
Mayfield to the end zone to Jefferson. Is that possible? Touchdown!
In 2023, he landed with Tampa Bay, where he took the Bucs to back-to-back division titles. And this past season, he threw for 4,500 yards with 41 touchdowns. It definitely looks like he's found his home in Florida. Kyler Murray became the first player ever drafted in the first round of both the NFL and MLB drafts, picking football over a potential baseball career with the Oakland A's. At 5 feet 10 inches tall, he was the shortest quarterback ever taken first overall, which started endless arguments about whether his height would hurt him in the NFL. It's still up in the air whether or not he's going to be a truly elite quarterback like some of the other guys on this list. One guy that you do not have those questions about is Joe Burrow. He went from being third string at Ohio State to transferring to LSU and having maybe the greatest college football season ever. That 2019 run with 5,671 passing yards, 60 touchdowns, and a national championship was so good that it made him the obvious first pick. Burrow got Cincinnati to the Super Bowl in just his second year, then back to the AFC Championship the next season. But he's already had 2 season-ending injuries and won Comeback Player of the Year twice, which shows both how tough he is and how much his body's been beat down. His 2024 season had MVP numbers, leading the league in passing yards and touchdowns, but Cincinnati still missed the playoffs because they just couldn't make a stop on defense.
Joe, that's one of my favorite quarterbacks to watch play. I don't like playing against him. Why? Because he's so poised.
Burrow's got Hall of Fame talent for sure, but you just have to wonder if his body is going to be able to withstand a whole career behind Cincinnati's shaky offensive line. Trevor Lawrence rolled into the NFL as the most hyped quarterback since Andrew Luck. He torched Alabama as a true freshman for the national title and had a huge winning streak that made him the obvious #1 draft pick. But his NFL start was rough under Urban Meyer's complete mess of a coaching situation. And even though he bounced back in 2022 with that playoff win against the Chargers, Lawrence still hasn't consistently shown the magic that everybody was hoping for. Jacksonville, however, did look much better in 2025 and easily could have made a deep playoff run if a couple breaks went their way. I feel like Lawrence has finally figured it out and will be a big problem for the rest of the league in the upcoming years. Bryce Young's rookie year was brutal, with just 5.5 yards per attempt and less than a 60% completion rate, going 2-14 as a starter. He got benched early in his second season, which was pretty rough for a guy they just drafted first overall. But the cool thing here is that he actually looked way better when he got his job back in the second half of 2024. His accuracy and decision making started looking more like what made him special at Alabama. In 2025, Young led the Panthers to their first division title since 2015, and things seem to be trending in the right direction for them. Caleb Williams rolled into the NFL as yet another quote-unquote generational quarterback, famous for painting his nails with messages like F Utah before big games and pulling in over $10 million in NIL money at USC. Chicago drafted him as their franchise savior, but his rookie year was kind of a mess. The Bears couldn't hold it together and fired their head coach and offensive coordinator mid-season. Williams got sacked a league-leading 68 times behind one of the worst offensive lines in football. He did flash that Mahomes-level stuff with crazy arm angles and some off-script magic every now and then. And 2025 was a huge step in the right direction as the Bears won their division for the first time since 2018. The addition of offensive-minded head coach Ben Johnson has unlocked Caleb in a way that we didn't see during his rookie year. Now we're on to Cam Ward, and he might be the most unlikely #1 pick in years. A zero-star high school guy from West Columbia, Texas, who started college at a smaller school named Incarnate Word. But this dude never doubted himself despite having just 2 college offers, grinding his way all the way up to starting for the University of Miami. Things were pretty rough in year 1 for him because the Titans as a whole were just so bad, ranking bottom 5 in both offense and defense while finishing 3-14. The good news is that most of the issues had nothing to do with Ward as a player, and he did provide some amazing throws during the year. Tennessee is going to have to build around this guy for the future because I could easily see him becoming a star down the line. So there it is, guys. Every quarterback taken first overall since 1970. Not many actually live up to the hype of that spot. But that doesn't mean the pressure gets any easier as time goes on. What do you all think though? Is being drafted #1 overall really a blessing or a curse? Let me know in the comment section below, and if you want to see more videos like this, just be sure to hit that subscribe button.